This is The Mountainside, and joining us in studio for this episode is Blayne Smith. He's a former Green Beret, West Point graduate, lead principal, and co-founder of Applied Leadership Partners. He's the co-author of one of my favorite books, Perseverance, Greater Than Endurance. It's a must-read on my list. I really enjoyed sitting down and getting to know Blayne during this recording. This was an incredible conversation. Enjoy this bottle of Three Rangers.
Have you even tried it yet? Looks like it's not even open.
No, man. I've been laying off the sauce lately.
Oh, well, good for you then. In that case, totally fine.
I haven't.
If you're drinking some other crap whiskey and you're not drinking that, then that's not okay. But
first of all, I got to say welcome to the podcast.
Okay,
we are rolling.
All right.
I've just had so much stuff going on, like between business, the podcast, and then also everything that happened in the community. Yeah. I feel like I need to stay sharp, right? Like I need to stay real sharp right now. So it's just not a good time, but down the road, I'd be happy to have one of those. Maybe with dinner tonight or something. We'll dive into it. But
fair enough.
How's Colorado treating you?
It's been good. I was here last week as well.
Really?
We had another thing last week. So I'm out here, 4, 5, 6 times a year, probably, because Brandon's here and we've got stuff going on. And he's done a really nice job of helping to grow our business out here in Colorado as well. So I always enjoy coming out. I always joke the best night of sleep I get is in the basement at Brandon's house. It's like dark and cold. It's awesome. It's awesome. So I always look forward to coming out.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think the altitude has a little something to do with it too. Like I always sleep better at home than I do when I'm on the road for some reason.
Really? Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. We worked out a while ago after we finished up our gig up in, where were we? Goodness, Keystone.
Keystone, yeah.
Yeah. And we couldn't get one in this morning, so we had sound check at 6.
Oh, nice.
So we're like, that's
an early sound check.
That's a little aggressive. So normally we would always get up, even if we have to get up, at 5 to get a workout in. We have kind of a rule. When we travel, when we're on the road, we always work out every day, like just a standing rule. And that does a lot of good for us because it makes sure that we kind of stay sharp, like you said.
Yeah.
Anyway, this morning it didn't make sense. So we got a late checkout and we decided to go into the gym afterwards. And it's, 9,000 feet, 9,500, something like that up there. And we did this CrossFit workout that I just had saved on my phone. It's blistering. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I was like, why do I feel so terrible? And I was like, oh, well.
Right.
Blame it on the altitude at least.
No, it does. Like I notice it when I go to sea level or even to like Vegas or something that's 1,000 feet. I'm like, oh, I'm the man. And then I come back here after being there for a week and I'm like, oh man, I'm dragging, So it does make a difference. Staying sharp is so key. That's one thing that I love about this book. So I'm really excited to have you in because I've had Brandon in 3 times now, right?
Yeah, is he going to be your co-host soon or what's going on there?
No, man. We've literally been on the phone every day for the last 2 weeks just because of everything I've been doing business-wise. He's been giving me some mentorship in that.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to help him out, which I still owe him. He's only been helping me. It's only been reciprocal on my end. So I got to turn around and give Brandon some help. But what an amazing human being, man. What a great business partner that you have. And dude, he feels like family right now. And we just met it was St. Patty's Day this year, which is rad. And it's like I jump in front of a truck for him right now. And he basically did for me on the last episode. So
right.
Not only that, his family too. So shout out to Ellie, him, Kelly, Jaden. The whole family is amazing. I haven't met them all yet, but I can get a sense of what's going on there.
I can vouch for them.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, the Youngs are as good as they get. And I have the fortune of being the guy's business partner.
Absolutely.
It's so funny. We were just talking about this today because most of the work we do together. So every now and then I'll go do something on my own or he'll do it or, about 2 things on the same day, stuff like that. But most of what we do together. And we like it better because we like to be on the road together and hang out and go have dinner and work out and all that stuff. It's just more fun. It's a lighter lift. We enjoy it. But it's not without its challenges. Having 2 people on a podium or 2 people on a stage at the same time is more work and requires more practice and more coordination than just going up and talking by yourself. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get after things like this is that it seems like you guys really like each other. And we're always like, yeah, we do. That's why we're doing this together, But I think that comes through, and I think it actually ends up making a big difference for the audience or for the people that we're working with. Because maybe in even a small way, we're kind of modeling what right could look like for them in their organization. Our business is small and we don't have a lot of complex things to deal with, but I do think we'd have at least a small opportunity to show people like you can be a really high performer and you can push each other and challenge each other, but still really like each other and respect each other.
That whole lead by example. Like I've told Brandon this, man, it's the guys that I really look up to in business. I would say like 80% of them are from the special operations community, whether they were, SEALs, Green Berets, MARSOC guys. I don't know if there's any Air Force guys. There's a few Air Force guys in there.
To be fair, there's not as many of them, but the CCTs and the PJs in the Air Force are as good as they get. Those guys are incredible.
Absolutely. I don't have the space to talk on this because I was never in or never served or anything like that, but just the camaraderie, and I know my place in those circles too. Like I'm still an outsider, but those guys have been, well, just like Brandon is a prime example. Totally selfless, was here for me in a time of need, supported me on my idea of recording that last podcast, which has gotten nothing but positive feedback. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I'm good to hear that.
It could go either way, right?
Yeah.
So far, it's been nothing but positive feedback, and it was me like genuinely trying to help. But if I didn't have him in my corner and that boots on the ground experience that he faced, Ellie faced, Jaden, Kelly, that goes so far, man. And I think that, one of the things that I love about all my friends that are from the military communities, no matter what they were in, is it's almost like the brutal honesty that comes with it. Like they'll tell me if I'm fucking up, right?
Yeah, there's something in there about just being a grown-up. Mm-hmm. I've thought about this a lot lately because a lot of us work really hard to convince ourselves about certain things in our lives that just are not true. Like because we just don't want to face up to the reality. And it can be in little things like, I want to lose some weight. I want to get in better shape. Like generally speaking, they're pretty straightforward solutions for that, right?
Right.
Or if your life is not the way that you want it to be, you're struggling in a certain area, a little bit of introspection, maybe chat with a friend. Most of the time, it's a pretty straightforward solution. But we don't like those solutions because they're often hard or ugly or
they suck.
We don't like what they say about us or, I just don't want to eat my broccoli. Surely there's some pill or powder that can make this work better for me. And what we have found is that when we're working with serious people, they're just grown-ups about this stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, there's a lot of challenges in the world right now. All the businesses that we get the chance to work with have real challenges. They're dealing with stuff that is hard. But it's a lot harder if you're just not a grown-up about it. If you're trying to look the other way or you're trying to say or make it more complicated than it is, it just makes it worse. And what makes it better oftentimes is somebody being willing to step in and say guys, it's actually just this. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to address it or it's just not going to get better. You know what I mean? And we really like working with serious people. And there are a lot of people out there that get involved in some of these issues.
You can say whatever you want on here, by the way.
Yeah. I think I want to be careful because I don't want to speak ill of anybody in particular, but a non-serious person is somebody who's involved in something and they don't really want to fix the problem. They don't really want to get from A to B. They don't really want to get serious about doing what is required to make it happen, whether that's in their personal life, in their business, in politics, or whatever. And we would describe serious people as those who are willing to do what it takes. And sometimes that's speaking a hard truth. Sometimes that's starting over. Sometimes that's scrapping a project that's just not working and we all know it, but nobody wants to say it. Right.
A lot of times it's listening, I think, too, right? Like just listening to other people, it's been one of the hardest things for me to do here. And that's honestly what's made me grow is just shut up and listen every once in a while,
Yeah. And I think we don't want to listen sometimes because we anticipate that we're not going to like what we hear.
Yeah.
So we just kind of go on and on sort of filibustering about this stuff because we don't want to hear, what some people really have to say.
The hard truths, right?
Yeah. And to your point, having people in your life that will do that is an incredible blessing. It's a huge asset. And I think the reason that soft guys are so good with this is because in that environment, there's really not a lot of room for like, well, I don't want to hurt that guy's feelings, so I'm not going to tell him he's messed up. Like if one of the 12 guys in your team is really messed up, somebody better say something fast.
Right.
And it doesn't make it personal, but things are serious. So we can't just be messing around with this stuff.
Right. Yeah, your life depends on it at that point, right?
Yeah, in some cases it does, sure.
There's so much of that in this book, and you just reminded me of something that I read in here. So one of the things that I need you to do, because Brandon signed this, I don't know what this is, probably my self-help paper. I don't know what that is. Brandon signed it, so now I need to have you sign it somewhere in here.
Yeah,
so we got both of you guys, so maybe right there or something.
Sure.
So we'll get you Sharpie afterwards. So this stays in the studio. It's the first thing that people normally see when they walk in. It's on the table out there. There's a few books, yeah.
All right.
But I always recommend this. I've recommended this to so many friends that are seeking, maybe they don't even need self-help, but it kind of falls in a self-help category. And I think a lot of it is because of you guys being honest and sharing your perspective, and then also like everything that you've learned along the way through teaching leadership, being leaders in the military. There's so much that's in this, but then a ton of like personal life stuff.
Yeah.
And I vividly remember one part of the book, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. It was you had moved on in life and became like the president of GORUCK or something, and had moved your family, and kind of it sounded like maybe running from some problems or something, or chasing the next hurdle in life. And you were talking about you and your daughter were like at a park or a playground or the beach or something, and you were kind of like hurrying her along. And I'm so guilty of this. Like, as roadies, what we do with my background is solve problems like right away. Like there are no issues, we're going to solve it, right? Yeah. And then it's also like moving quickly on to the next thing, and being proactive so you can have more downtime or actually get through the day so you don't have a 14-hour workday. Maybe you're cutting it down to 12 or whatever. So I've always said you can't roadie your kids, because this was a hard thing for me to like learn, right? Is like I was always hurrying my kids along. Like, when are they going to get out of diapers? When are they going to read? When are they going to, like, when can we go for a bike ride? When we need to cross the street faster, which I think was kind of happening in your case, or get to the car or whatever. And some homeless guy like called you out. It hit home for me big time.
Yeah. So the story was, we had moved up to Jacksonville Beach so that I could be the president at GORUCK. And the idea was that was going to be my last job. It was a great job. I loved the people there, and fully intended for that to be it for me. But in moving up to Jacksonville Beach, we moved away from Tampa, which is where our family had been for a long time, and is where my two sons were. So at this point in my life,
that's right.
I got married super young when I was in the Army. I'd gotten divorced in 2012, but I had two sons from my first marriage, and they were kind of splitting time between our house and their mom's house. And we had convinced ourselves through a long process that it was going to be okay to move to Jacksonville Beach. My wife and I and our daughter, our young daughter, who was only a year old. And after 6 months, 8 months, maybe 9 months, it was clear that it just wasn't working out, and we were going to have to move back to Tampa to be closer to the boys. And it was a really gut-wrenching decision. So my head is already kind of spinning with all kinds of like guilt and embarrassment, because I had left my role at Team RWB to pursue this role at GORUCK, which made sense. I think to a lot of people wasn't that big a deal. But now I'm kind of bailing on this job at GORUCK, and they'd been nice enough to bring me in, make me the president of the company. And now it's less than a year, and I'm going to leave, right? So I feel like in this moment, so just to kind of paint the context here emotionally, I had left my team at Team RWB. Nobody really left their jobs there. Like when I was there, we had 35 employees, and I think only one person before me had ever left. So I had left that community. I had left my boys in Tampa. At least this is my version of it, right, in my head. And now I'm leaving the team at GORUCK and bailing on them. So I'm like 3 different important constituencies in my life I just sort of like walked away from. And so I was feeling it pretty heavy to begin with. And my wife at this time was now back down in Tampa a lot, because She got her old job back, essentially, when we decided we needed to move back. I didn't have a plan. I was like, we just need to move back. But I didn't have a job. So she went and got her old job back and was kind of down there. And I was spending a lot of time with my daughter and my thoughts, basically, at this point. And we were out one day and we were on the sidewalk and we had gone to get ice cream at our favorite place. And it was like a beautiful day, like the perfect, Florida day. And we'd had a really great day. And I wasn't feeling super stressed in this moment. I was just kind of like out there enjoying it. And this is the important part because I wasn't really stressed. I wasn't in a big hurry, but I had like instinctively just said, hey, honey, we got to get going. Because she was puttering around on the sidewalk saying hi to everybody and knocking on windows of restaurants and picking up cigarette butts and all kinds of stuff, And I just reflexively said, hey, we got to get back to our bike. We got to get going. And she's 18 months old.
Wow.
And there's a homeless guy on a bench on the corner who I've not noticed at this point. I just hear from behind me, hey. And I was like, what is that? Hey. And then, sometimes you hear it a second or third time, you think, is this person talking to me? So I turn around. I'm like, maybe someone's actually talking to me. And I see it's this guy. And my response then is like, okay, I don't want to deal. What does this guy want? I'm just trying to get my daughter to the bike, right? But I look at him and I say, hey. And he says, you should learn to enjoy going at her pace.
It's so crazy.
And I was like, it was like getting hit in the face with a missile. Because he was 100% right. Mm-hmm. And it was like this really deep little bolt of wisdom from a guy, the last person you would ever expect to hear it from, And I knew it instantaneously. This was not like a thing I thought about that night or the next day. I was like, damn, you're right. I'm wrong. That's profound. And I thought about it a lot in the months after that when I was kind of resetting my life as we moved back to Tampa and I had to figure out what I was going to do for work. And in those first few months, my wife was working and commuting over to MacDill Air Force Base. She was an intel professional over at SOCOM. And I was doing most of the pickup, drop off, dad stuff. That was really my day a lot of days. And I really had to force myself to throttle way back and try to see the beauty in just following her around and going at her pace. And on one hand, it was like magical. I mean, he was right. And instantaneously, it was like, oh, this is way better. I should totally do it like this. And at the same time, it was still really, really hard. And I still caught myself, going way too fast, way too often. Even now, she's 9 years old now. And just a couple days ago, I was frustrated because she was taking forever to go to bed. She's so slow at everything still. And I had a plan. I wanted to turn the sauna on. I wanted to get in the sauna and I had to finish packing because I was coming out here to Colorado and I had this whole plan. And she was just thwarting my plan.
Right.
And I had to remember my own words and take my own medicine in those moments. I have to do it all the time.
I do too. I'm guilty of it. I think that's why it hit so close to home for me. It was just like, I'm constantly like, where are we going? What are we doing? Who's got to be here? When? And I'm trying to think about the most efficient way to do it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
I can efficient my way into oblivion. Oh man, I had to talk with my wife about it the other night. I said, hey, I know that Penny could tell I was frustrated with her. Mm-hmm. And I don't want her growing up with a dad who's like always frustrated with her.
Right.
I think her quirks are hilarious and endearing, but there are certainly moments when I'm frustrated. And she said, I don't think that's the case. You're not a frustrated person. But it really, I'm really serious about it.
Yeah.
I do not want for my wife or my kids to feel like they're an inconvenience to me. Mm-hmm. And I know, my boys are 19 and 16 now. And, for a stretch, I was a single dad with them. Before that, their mom and I were not in a good place. And before that, I was in the Army. I was not fully present and engaged and certainly was not super chill for those kids when they were little. And I figured some things out along the way, and I certainly tried my best, but I screwed up all kinds of stuff, And having a second bite at the apple with our daughter is a big deal. And so I still think a lot and work a lot to try to, do my best with the boys, but they're older now and kind of, we've missed a little of that window.
Right.
But with her, I'm like, my precious little baby girl.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about learning from other people's perspective, maybe your boys will pass it on to their grandkids or whatever, if that day comes. And for me, it was, I I had two pretty close together. They're only 2 years apart. And then there's about a 6 year break in there where we had our third. And I realized with those first two how fast they do grow up and how much I push them to grow up. The third one, I was like, slow down. Don't grow up.
Same
and she's
boat.
growing up the fastest. You know,
I
It's
know.
Like, oh my God, it's crazy.
Same boat. I'm just trying to relish it. So her birthday is in late August, and we had the decision to make about whether we have her start school when she's 4, about to be 5, or do we wait until she's 5, about to be 6? And we thought about it, and we looked at things, and we ultimately ended up starting her when she was 5, about to be 6. So she's one of the oldest kids in her class. And I think it's worked out for her for a number of reasons. But one of the biggest motivators for me was like, we'll keep her in the house an extra year.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I know. I don't ever want my kids to leave now, you know? Like, I'm not that parent that's like, they're like my partners in crime a little bit, you know? It's like, we plot against mom every once in a while when we need to go do cool shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it happens. But yeah, I think that really hit home to me in the book. And it's just a good reminder to me to slow down sometimes. Like, Brandon will tell you, I got a million irons in the fire right now, constantly. You know? And that's okay. I think it's good for me because I think like sitting in silence or doing nothing is really hard for me to do unless I want to go to sleep, right?
Yeah, I suck at it too. I mean, I've tried, like a lot of people, and especially people from our community, to try to find some sort of calm. You know, and my yogi friends would not probably agree with this, but I find it if I can get fully present in like a flow state, that works for me. So I will always choose to trail run over run on the street. Because if I'm running on the street, I'm in my head, I got a million things going. That's okay sometimes. But when I'm trail running, I'm just right there, looking at the roots, looking at the rocks.
Yeah.
You know, I love to mountain bike for the same reason. I've trained CrossFit since like 2007, and I feel the same way about it. Like, you just get in, and 2 or 3 minutes into the workout, there is nothing going on in your world other than
Suffering.
like, I've got to figure out a way to pick this barbell up again.
Right.
You know, and so that works for me. We've been talking a lot lately, not a lot lately. I've been thinking a lot lately about this combination of simplicity and intensity. You know, and I think for guys like us, that's something for us to remind ourselves of, because it's very easy to get very scattered and have 1,000 irons in the fire and to be spread really thin. And I think then you do appear to be distracted. You have a hard time being really present with a conversation or with your kids because you've got a lot of other stuff going on. And I don't think I'm ever going to get to a place where I can have nothing going on or totally quiet my mind. Like, I'm built to do stuff.
Right.
But what I've found is if I can, again, be a grown-up and think about what's really important and what's really my priority and take something simple but then do it with intensity, that feels a lot better. So like Brandon and I did a workout today in the hotel gym, 2 movements. I don't know how long it took, less than 10 minutes probably. 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, bench press, box jump over. For time.
Yeah.
Simple, intense, and it works.
Yeah, I think
You know?
I have some protocols that to walk into this door right here and sit down at this table that I need to hit for me to be in a good headspace. Like, home's got to be squared away. I need to work out. I need to have some sunlight. Like, there's a bunch of stuff. I'm doing the podcast fasted right now. I always fast when I'm doing it. I just don't want any distractions. Do you guys have some of those protocols, like going on stage? Because I think I've kind of picked that up from some performers and stuff like that. Just knowing and working with them on such an intimate basis, like, you know, with writers, like I got to have watermelon in my dressing room. And there's a reason for that, right? Like somebody, that's their ritual. They eat watermelon before they go on stage every, you know, act or city or whatever they're doing. Like that's why it's there. Maybe it's a bowl of only blue M&Ms or whatever. Right?
The notorious M&Ms.
Yeah.
So we do and we don't. I think that we have some principles that we try to really adhere to, but we don't have a really strict routine. So I told you earlier, we have a standing policy we work out when we're on the road. And that one thing I think actually does a number of other things. So we don't stay up late because we've got to get up early and work out. We don't have too much to drink because we've got to get up early and work out. We don't sleep in because we've got to get up early and work out. That seems to really help. And I would imagine it's doing a lot for us cognitively and helping us to kind of bring our nervous system down, not think about the performance for a little while, and kind of get us in a space.
Science has proven that, man. Like it works,
So that's kind of the number one thing. We try pretty hard to eat reasonably well. I think we do this in our private lives as well, but when we're on the road, we try not to get silly with, eating a bunch of crap. We try to eat well and make sure that we're well nourished. So that's a big one. We have some things that we remind each other of a lot, especially if we're particularly nervous. We'll say that this is really about the room and not about us. So we're going to resist the urge to be profound. We're going to resist the urge to, we don't want them to think that we're the coolest guys in the world. We want them to think that they can do more after having engaged with us. And we try to remind ourselves sometimes that they've invited us to be here, right? And that they're probably rooting for us and that people don't want to see a couple guys go up on the stage and bomb. Like nobody's looking for that, right? So there are some reminders, I think, that we keep kind of coming back to. There are times when we'll pray. I mean, I think we do that fairly regularly at this point. It's just to sort of remind ourselves that, hey, this isn't really about us. We're just trying to hope that, God can work through us to deliver something of value to these people. And I think that makes us feel a lot less nervous. So we do a number of things like that.
Meditation, like praying is a meditation for me almost.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like clear your mind for a second and focus on something else.
Yeah, and just shift the perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. I mean, and I'm not an expert on this, but I spend a lot of time in this world. Most people who really suffer from depression, a big part of that is that they have an intense focus on the self. Why am I unhappy? Why can't I figure this out? And it's a real thing and it's a serious thing. But one of the ways I think that most people can help to find their way out of it is by having a purpose beyond themselves. Whether it's just having a dog you got to take care of, or kids, or work, or something. It's a lot harder to be depressed when you're not thinking about yourself all the time.
Absolutely.
And so we're trying as regularly as we can to remind ourselves that, like, it's fine. I'm sure these people think one way or another about us, but that's not really what matters.
Absolutely. Man, the gratification that I get from helping somebody, like genuinely, like recording that podcast with Brandon, him helping me, just I wanted it to be a win for everybody, for my community, for kids that are going back to school, for me. I needed that more than anything, I think, was just to sit with Brandon and Ellie and be like, what did you guys go through? Like it was almost like a selfish thing a little bit in that way. But yeah, I get so much gratification out of that. And I think the big thing that I really try to do it with is with intention and not expecting anything in return, right? I think that that's a big thing for me that, because I've been caught in that trap in the past where it's like, okay, I did this for you because there's an ulterior motive because I think I'm going to get something later down the road or whatever. And in the industry that I work in is very much like that sometimes, right? It's like, okay, I'll help you out this time, but you owe me the next time, right? And I've just wiped all that away. Honestly, since I started the podcast, it was just like, this was a fresh start for me and a way for me to have full creative control. That's why I don't bring on certain guests. That's why I don't have these crazy sponsors that are willing to pay lots of money so we could have a nicer studio. It's not about that. It's more about like the human connection, giving back, and everybody being happy when they walk out of this room. That's my goal.
Yeah, I'm sure you've discovered this, but being generous is a really great way.
Yeah.
To have a better life.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be monetarily either. It can just be like reaching out to somebody or letting people know that you're with them, right? Like Brandon did and Ellie did the other night. Like, that was huge, man. That meant so much to me. It's meant so much to the community too. I mean, facing this is something that you think you're never going to face. Like, and I was just talking to one of my buddies, shout out to Richie. He's actually will be one of the next episodes. He's a former, I think he's a Team 4 guy. I don't know. Doesn't matter. He was a SEAL. But we were just talking. It was just like a quick catch up. He's starting a new business, and it's in the off-road space. They're building these badass truck toppers. Cool. They have like a little turret hatch that you can go out of, and it's all carbon fiber. They're badass toppers. But we were just talking about the way that people sometimes approach you with intention because of maybe who you are or what you've done in the past. Like, and people always introduce them as, and I just did it, right? Like, they'll start with, this is my buddy. He's a former Navy SEAL. His name is Richie. Right? Instead of like, hey, this is Richie. You know, it's like
that's like the Spanish like version of doing it where the adjective follows the noun.
Yeah. It's so backwards, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think people put that in perspective. So I think also being humble and being forgiving of stuff like that, right? Because you can very easily get caught up in like, oh man, he did it again or whatever, right? Like, just taking it for what it is. People make mistakes. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think Brandon would agree. So many people have been so generous to us in our lives that it's not hard for us to try to be generous to somebody who's genuinely reaching out or genuinely needs some help. I mean, we get a lot out of that. It's just like, it's kind of an abundance mindset. You meet great people that way. You have more good people in your life, and your life becomes better because you have better people in your life. And that doesn't always materialize into something monetary.
Right.
But it certainly makes your life better.
So much better.
It would be crazy for us to not be willing to do that, given how nice people have been to us throughout our careers. And I get a zillion, and I'm sure like everybody else listening, I get a zillion AI-generated spam, you know,
so bad
prospecting emails in my LinkedIn, and I got no love for them. You know, if it's not sincere, if it's not personal, if, you know, then I don't even read them. It's all getting deleted every single time without even thinking about it. But if a former SF guy or somebody reaches out and is like, would love to chat, would love to hear what you think about this, it's 100% yes. It's the complete inverse. And I get so much out of doing that. So, I mean, 2 days next week, in fact, I'm going to go meet with people that reached out this week because I have some time on my calendar and I'd be very happy to do it.
You're doing it with me right now. I'm not paying you to be here.
Well, sure, but
you know what I mean?
You do have a lot of really good-looking whiskey over there. So I mean, we could figure out a barter system.
We can tap into that. We haven't even cracked the seal on it. 3 Rangers. I know it's not 3 Green Berets, but
it's not horse soldier bourbon.
Right.
We got to get you one of those. I've failed. I've failed you.
No, you didn't fail nothing.
We got to get you a bottle of horse soldier bourbon.
I appreciate your time and just being here. And I think to bring it back full circle to what we were just talking about was, for me, I've never really looked at this as a podcast. I've looked at it as like a community almost. Like, I want this group of like people that can help each other, and no matter what's going on, they can cross-pollinate, and here's one common place where they've all said or they've all signed the door. And not all of them have, because we've only been in this space a couple years, but they will. I mean, we have a lot of recurring guests. Like Brandon's been on 3 times, and I don't know if he told you this, but like once you sign up for this, you're expected to come back like once a year or something.
All right, cool.
So now you're obligated.
Easy. I'm out here all the time.
We'll have you sign the contract at the end.
All right, that's fine.
But yeah, I think that has been unbelievable for me, and I had no idea how much of a community I actually do have until you face some hard times.
Yeah.
I think that's huge too. Just having people in your corner is rad. But man, we're cruising through time already, and this podcast is about you, and we kind of went off on a little tangent there, but I want to know about Blayne, man, because I'm such a fan of Brandon. I'm such a fan of this book, Perseverance, Greater Than Endurance. Go get yourself a copy. I think it's Amazon. Anywhere, right?
Anywhere books are sold, yeah.
It's an incredible book. I recommend downloading the audiobook if you're like me, and that's how you take books in the gym. But the hard copy is really cool too, because it's got so many photos from you guys, you know, and deployments or personal life. And it's just, this book, I can't recommend it enough. So at least check it out. Go check out the preview. And we've heard a lot of like Brandon's side of his story and how he grew up and all that sort of stuff. So can we just rewind like all the way back to the beginning? Like,
Sure.
Where are you from and what were your parents in the military? Like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Where to start? So my parents are Midwesterners. They're from Illinois. My mom and dad are from Illinois and Missouri, respectively. And I was born in Effingham, Illinois. So I grew up in very much kind of a Midwestern household, and that sort of means like work hard, be humble, keep your powder dry, live within your means, all that kind of stuff, right? Take pride in your work. But we moved to Florida when I was 4 years old. So I'm effectively a Floridian. I grew up down in Cape Coral, Florida. In that household, my parents cut grass and cleaned pools, and my dad ended up retiring from the Teamsters Union, driving a truck eventually. But that was kind of the baseline of my house was, mom and dad get up, go to work every day. I went to school, played soccer, baseball, played all kinds of sports, and we had dinner at the table every night, watched Cheers and Night Court, you know what I mean? Went to bed at 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that was my life. We ate together. We spent a lot of time together. We did a lot of stuff outdoors, played sports, went fishing, stuff like that. I had a really idyllic childhood in a lot of ways. And looking back on it now, I would say like I was kind of in that sweet spot where I had mom and dad were both home. They both worked hard. A lot was expected of me, but they were good to me. We didn't have much, but we had enough. You know what I mean? I kind of had like a Goldilocks childhood in that way. And when I was
a healthy balance of work play, right? I guess,
also a healthy balance of like, having enough but not too much, I think. And I don't know that my parents did that on purpose. I think they would have been happy to have made a little more money if they could have or whatever. But as a kid, I always kind of felt like I wished I had a little more,
You always did.
There were always kids around me that had nicer stuff or better shoes or those kinds of things. But, in retrospect, I feel like it was a huge benefit to me to have a job and cut grass and wash dishes and make some of my own money and buy some of my own stuff because I learned a lot of important lessons that way. And so I had a really great childhood growing up in Southwest Florida. It was very different then than it is now. Like it's grown a ton since then, but it was kind of a backwater, a couple hours south of Tampa back then on the Gulf Coast. When I was a senior in high school, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for college. I was convinced I was going to college because I cooked and washed dishes and done all that stuff. And I was like, I probably should go to college. I don't want to be doing this when I'm 30. So I knew I wanted to go to college, and I had a bunch of big ideas about where I could go. I applied to places like Duke and Virginia and some really good schools. And I'd gotten to where my last few years of high school, I was playing golf competitively. And I became a pretty good junior golfer in Florida. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I was an athlete my whole life, but I was kind of a late bloomer in high school. So I fell behind a little bit in like the soccer, baseball world. And I'd started playing golf in the summer as just kind of a hobby, a way to pass the time. But I'd gotten good at it. And so I got really competitive playing junior golf and then ended up thinking I was going to go to college and play. And through like a weird series of events, I ended up getting recruited by the coach at West Point to come play golf.
Really?
Right. And everyone says the same thing. They're like, really? That's the oddest.
I didn't even know they had a golf team.
Indeed, they do. Yeah. So West Point has a Division I NCAA golf program.
Oh, shit.
I didn't know about that either. This was not on my radar. I was not even considering it. I didn't intend to serve in the military. I had no desire to do this at all. But kind of when the dust settled and it was like, well, I could go to the University of Florida with my friends, which is a good school, but I'm not going to be able to play golf because they're like top 10 in the nation and I just wasn't that good. Or I could try to go to a place like Duke where maybe I could play, but it's super expensive and we didn't have the kind of money to do that. So then it's like student loans, debt, et cetera. And then there was West Point sitting there, which was like, it's not going to cost you anything to go here. You're going to have a chance to play Division I golf. It's going to be really hard and challenging, which there was a part of that turned me off, but a part of it that really excited me as well. And you got to serve 5 years in the military afterwards. And I had a little bit of a mature conversation with myself at one point. I just thought, well, if I go to Florida, I'm going to do what I did in high school, which is kind of do the minimum, still probably make A's and B's, and get by and do fine, but I don't know how much I'm really going to grow as a person there. If I go to West Point, they're going to kick my ass every day. They're going to demand that I put my best foot forward every day. And I know I'm going to have a job when I get out, which as a kid growing up, kind of blue collar, lower middle class, like that means more than you might think, right?
Oh yeah, I grew up the same way. It was like looking for work when I was 11 years old or something. Like,
Yeah.
how can I make money so I can get the new Metallica album or
There you
whatever
go. That's
it was,
right.
you know?
That's
But
right.
Probably not that. Probably something worse, but
I have a great story about my first ever cassette tape I can tell you later.
okay.
Yeah, but anyway, it just became a very practical decision for me, is really what it came down to.
Yeah.
I was a relatively sharp kid. I had a good head on my shoulders. I was thinking about my future, and I was weighing the practical options.
How old were you when you were making these decisions?
17, 18.
Really?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I was not thinking about any of that. I mean, when I was that age,
Yeah.
I don't think.
So I finally, the golf coach came down to Florida and sat in my living room with my parents and I. And I don't know if it was just like the gesture, or I went on a recruiting trip also in December, and I went got a chance to see the place and look around. And West Point's a pretty special place if you've never been there. Like
I've never been.
I mean, it'll capture your imagination. It's really cool.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and I just was like, why not? Why not go do this? It just seems like the most reasonable thing to do.
Were your parents supportive of that decision, or?
They were supportive. I don't know that they were enthusiastic about it. I think my mom especially was a little more concerned about me going so far away and joining the Army and all of that stuff, right? But they were proud of me, and they were supportive. They were like that a lot in my life, actually. Again, it's another one of those things where whether they did it on purpose or not, my parents really struck a very healthy balance of being supportive of me without pushing me. My parents never really pushed me. And maybe that's because I was always a really driven kid. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have to I was more pulling on the leash than needing to be pushed, I think, a lot of my life. But yeah, they supported me in what I wanted to do. And we had rules and standards and things like that around my house, but they never really pushed me to do anything I didn't want to do. And that allowed me to make that decision on my own. One thing I will tell you is when I was deciding where to go to college, I was not thinking, what do mom and dad want me to do? And a lot of kids, that's not the case.
Right.
They're like, are mom and dad going to want me to go to where they went?
Well, especially if you're involved in a sport, because the recruiting process is so crazy right now, just because we have some close family friends that are going through it with their daughters. And I have some family members that are going through it now. And it is insane what these schools start recruiting at sophomore, juniors now. They've just totally skipped. By the time you're a senior, you better be really good at sports by the time you're a sophomore and junior for whatever you're going to college for, because the D1 schools, that's the level that they're looking at.
Yeah.
The seniors, they already know. They already got them. It's almost like a race to your kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's really healthy for the kids. I don't think I would have done well. And luckily, I only played golf and was not a tier 1. I was a tier 2 junior golfer. So I had some opportunities to go get my college paid for to play golf, which was cool, but I wasn't going to Florida or UCLA or Texas or one of the big programs.
Well, it's so different now too, with all the they're basically getting paid.
Oh yeah.
We have a friend, I probably shouldn't be sharing this, but she's going into a crazy, crazy sport. Just because I don't have their blessing, but they basically, the recruiter told her the other day, well, expect to have you own your first home outright by the time you leave here and have a college education. It's what you can expect.
Yeah. Well, it feels better than 120 grand in debt.
Right. Yeah. So the coin is flipped a little bit, right? Now there's some real incentive behind it. But even my kids playing, so this is super interesting to me. We're going to stick with golf here for a minute because my son just came to me. He played football at a pretty high level for his age last year, and is just a super smart kid. But the commitment was just insane. It was like playing for a mini college team. The season started in May. We started weight training and stuff in March for this team. They had a whole combine tryout, I think, in April, and then May 7-on-7s, and then full padded practice. It was insane. And then he had to battle for 300 spots or something to make the A team. I think they only took out of that 380 kids or something. Wow. And it was a whole thing. If a kid got injured, they'd call a kid up from the BT. I mean, it was
Next man up.
It was insane, right? So the level of athletes that he was surrounded by was insane, and he made it, all the way when he wasn't even supposed to make the team, like size-wise and speed and all that sort of stuff. So really cool experience for him, and I'm like super proud of him. But he also suffered 2 concussions last year, and he's such a smart kid, so much smarter than I ever was. He just came to us and was like, I did it. We went to the championship. He got a championship ring last year, like the whole nine. So like he's had a better football career than I ever had, right? And he was like, I think I want to play golf instead, like because the longevity in my body and all this stuff. Like I was like, all right, cool. And his goal was never to be like an NFL football player. It was to be an NFL coach. Okay. So he's like, cognitively, this is not safe. Like maybe when I get to high school or something, but like playing at this level at my age and my brain's still, he brought all the science and everything.
How old is he?
He's 12. Yeah.
12.
This is also a kid that got invited to the U.S. Open of Chess Federation's Open tournament in Vegas and placed like very high, is like nationally rated. Like,
dang.
I think that's why he excelled so much at football, because he ate up like the playbook. He loves the play scheming of it all and the coaching process.
Dang, that's awesome. Yeah,
so it's pretty rad. But anyways, golf is his new thing. So we got him down at Fox Hollow with a club pro down there, and he's like, he's so bad at it.
Yeah,
he's so bad at
Everyone's
it. Like,
bad at it when they start.
Oh, I'm horrible. But
Nobody's good at it when they start.
But I can outdrive him. But I know, like in a matter of months, he's going to be, smoking me on the course probably. But
wow,
yeah, it's something that he showed interest in. So. And we have high school golf teams here now and all that sort of stuff. I don't know that there was ever a golf team when I was going to school. I graduated in 98, so I don't know. How old were you?
97. I graduated high school.
Okay, so we're right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't think it was like a mountain thing, even though we had golf courses everywhere here that we'd walk onto. We didn't know how to play or anything. So it's just the next level, like he's getting one-on-one coaching with a club pro down at this course, and I don't know anything about it. It's screwed up my golf swing is what it's done. Because I'm standing there like watching his lessons and I'm like, oh, I've been doing it wrong. And now.
Yeah, it's a hard game.
Yeah. No, it's super hard. I mean, it's got to be one of the hardest ball sports there is. You're trying to hit a little bitty ball with like a club.
Into a 4.25 inch hole. It's 400 yards away. You get 4 shots at it.
The Scottish are crazy, man.
Where do they come up with this stuff? Because the weather there is terrible and the terrain's terrible too. So it's not even like. It's not like, these nicely manicured golf courses.
I'm sure they would involve some whiskey or something, right?
Maybe that's the thing.
Maybe it
Scottish
is.
whiskey.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always better at driving. Well, I shouldn't even say this. Drinking and driving on the golf course is like, that's what I'm good at on the golf course.
I think a lot of people are good at it.
I don't do that anymore. But
yeah,
so playing at that level, what is like the commitment at a D1 school? Are you golfing like 7 days out of the week, like going to school and then going straight onto the course or the links, or I don't even know what you call it?
Yeah, sort of. So, I mean, West Point's obviously very different because your academic commitment and your military commitment, physical training commitment is much more robust than at a regular college. But if you went to like a regular university, you'd be spending a lot of your days playing golf and kind of going to class, especially at the really high level schools. And I don't say this, not trying to throw shade, but I mean, those guys are there playing golf and like taking school on the side a lot of times.
Right.
Where it certainly was not that way for us. But golf was a fall and spring sport season. So it was a huge commitment because we had, practice and tournaments in the fall semester as well as in the spring semester. And some of that was amazing because I got out of like a lot of drill and a lot of crap I didn't want to do because I was at practice. And I got to leave West Point a lot and go travel around the country to go to other colleges and play golf on the weekends.
So rad.
Which was amazing.
Did you play like crazy courses too, like Pebble Beach or
Not Pebble Beach. We got to play some phenomenal golf courses as a collegiate golfer. And of course you've got like, your balls in your bag and it's all taken care of. So it was a really amazing experience and it really helped to keep me sane when I was there because, it's a very hard experience being there. But being able to get off post every now and then and go be with other college kids and play in golf tournaments, it was incredible. But the time commitment was also so significant that you had to really be on your game at school, because there's no such thing as a makeup exam at West Point. They literally use the term make ahead.
Really?
So if there's a test on Friday in a given subject, but I'm leaving Thursday afternoon to go to a golf tournament in Pennsylvania or whatever, I have to take a make ahead exam on Thursday morning, a day ahead, so I can get it knocked out, because there's no way they're not letting me take it on Monday when I'm back. If a paper's due Friday,
hopefully you didn't need to
thing.
learn anything on Friday that's on the exam, right?
Exactly. And so what that taught me though was time management and kind of life management. I got one of those, those big calendars everyone used to have on their desk, the big paper calendars and you rip off each month kind of thing. I just had one of those on my desk, and I would get my, the syllabus for every class at the beginning of every semester. I'd open it up and I would go through all 4 months or whatever it was and write down every quiz, every test, every paper, every project, and highlight, when I was going to be on the road for golf. And I just made sure that I had my ducks in a row. And as I got a little further along, I got better at it. I struggled. I kind of was drowning the first semester or two, because I was not a good student in high school. I got good grades, but I was not a good student. And so I had to learn a lot of that. But it was a phenomenal experience.
So rad.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I've never heard anybody's way into the military by golf, I don't think.
If I hadn't wanted to play competitive college golf, I think there's almost no chance I would have ended up in the military at all.
That's so crazy.
Much less at West Point or in the war, NSF, or any of those things. It really all comes down to the fact that the golf coach at West Point pursued me the most aggressively of all the other coaches and made me the best offer, and that's where I went.
At your age, when you're making all these decisions and logically thinking like that, and then the organization skills that you have, did he see something in you being squared away? Is that why they maybe wanted you at West Point too, or was it just solely to be on the golf team?
I doubt it. I think it really was just golf. I think it came down to the fact that, you certainly need a certain kind of kid,
right,
that's going to be able to thrive in that environment and can hold up academically. So you can't just recruit any kid that's a good golfer.
Yeah, that's part of the
You're going to be limited.
Right?
And you can't recruit the very best players either, for the most part, because they want to go and try to play professionally. And going to play at West Point is not a good route. It's not going to be good for your golf game,
because you still have that 5-year commitment at the end of it.
Right. And you want to go to USC or Florida or somewhere where you can major in golf, so to speak. Right.
Right.
So they have their constraints as well. But we had kids on the team that were from Hawaii and Southern California and Florida and Georgia, mostly Southern kids that had been really good junior golfers, but not quite, capable of maybe playing at the top level. And a lot of us showed up at West Point because it gave us a chance to play. It gave us a chance to get a top flight education. It gave it to us at a great price, free.
Yeah.
And I think most of us, and this might be unfair to say, but I think most of us considered the 5-year military commitment as sort of like a necessary, thing we just had to do in order to get all the other stuff, all the other good that came from being there. And once you're there, especially when you're on the golf team and you're traveling around, you meet a lot of graduates and people that are bending over backwards to be nice to you and take care of you. And you do homestays at their houses in Dallas or in Southern California. And you're like, if I graduate from West Point, do I get to have this someday? And
it's kind of,
sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to rewind a little bit, but then I want to go back and pick up from West Point and graduating from there, and then your military career. But you had mentioned, and you can't leave this hanging because the listeners will eat us alive, something about a cassette tape and your first cassette tape. So I got to hear about this.
Yeah, so I got a little boom box like we all did back in the 1980s.
It was just a single deck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually I got a double deck so that you can record, from one deck to the other and make a mixtape.
Yeah.
But I had this little single deck boom box, and my parents with it had gotten me 2 cassette tapes, and it was the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean, which is like old school.
I don't know who Jan and Dean is.
They were kind of like the Beach Boys. It was like old school, like surf music. And of course they're like, "Oh, you love this stuff. It'll be great." And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then for my birthday, my sister, who was 9 years older than me and had like a Columbia House membership and listened to like Rat and Dokken and
the
Megadeth
old
and all
pennies it was a penny for like 12 cassette tapes or something.
Yeah,
right?
something nuts, right? So she had gotten me for my birthday a pair of soccer socks because I was a big soccer player. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, they're rolled up like a pair of socks. And I unroll this pair of, I never forget them, they're like baby blue soccer socks. And I'm like, first of all, these are so ugly. I'm never wearing these. But I'm unrolling this pair of baby blue soccer socks. And in the toe of that pair of socks was a cassette tape of Slippery When Wet. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, which my parents did not really approve of.
Yeah.
And they weren't like sticklers, but they didn't. I was pretty young. They were not interested in me having that. But she had slid it in this pair of soccer socks and had done me a solid. And so then I could,
badass.
you could carry around my boombox, and I could go off with my friends in the neighborhood and ride bikes and stuff, and we could listen.
Rockin' Bon Jovi.
Oh man,
Did you have a mullet?
no,
Okay.
well kind of, yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I did. In the 5th and 6th grade, I had a little bit of a mullet. Yeah, had the long curly hair in the back.
Yeah.
Played soccer and baseball. So it's coming out of the back of the cap. And I eventually got Def Leppard Hysteria.
Yes.
And then my sister gave me their
Bro, that album still holds up.
The
Def
best.
Leppard still holds up today. I don't know if you've seen them lately. but
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then she gave me Def Leppard Pyromania, which was the one from 1982 when the drummer still had 2 arms, you know? And then so I started building my my rock collection, and I got to thank my sister for pointing me in the right direction.
Dude, that was such a badass era of just TV and like MTV and like that whole thing. Like
then you get into the 90s and you get all the 90s rock and roll, you get 90s hip hop.
Yeah.
Then eventually you get 90s alternative, which some people will turn their nose up at. But like, look, if you're in my garage and you're throwing down, you're getting 90s hip hop, 90s alternative, or 90s stadium rock. That's what you're getting. That's
so good. It's all so good, man. It's all amazing, actually. Yeah, I remember the very first music video that I don't know if it was the first one. What was the one that was on the Pepsi commercial where it was all the chicks like playing the bass guitars and stuff? And
it was Simply Irresistible.
Simply Irresistible.
Yeah.
I think that might have been
with the red
first,
lipstick and the black bikinis, and they're all playing bass.
Yeah, and then
Robert Plant.
Paul Abdul had a killer video that I remember. It was like cartoon infused thing, but she was just so hot, man. Like I was like,
the cartoon was
I don't even remember the name of the song. I remember it being like
Opposites Attract.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But then the first music video that really hit home for me was like, this is fucking rad. Was Motley Crue's, I think it was it Dr. Feelgood? It was just car wrecks.
Stadium scenes mixed in there.
Yeah, stadium scenes, drag strips, them on Harleys, them at the strip club. I was like, this is rad.
Yeah. By the way, I said Robert Plant a while ago, and that was a mistake. It was Robert Palmer. Was the Simply
okay.
Yeah, I don't want anyone chewing me up for messing up a Led Zeppelin band member. Like,
yeah, they'll crush us. Yeah, it was a crazy time. Man, that's cool though. Good sister.
Yeah. And again, like, what a great time to grow up. I mean,
so good.
I only grew up once, so I can't compare it. But I think about my kids now and growing up.
Everything's at the touch of a fingertip now. It's like, Dad,
so
listen to this
different.
song, and we still get to share stuff. And there's some cool rock bands out there. I think that the music is, it's funny because all the kids at the high school now are a lot of my daughter's friend set, because she's a freshman. I'm like, what kind of music? Because I drive them to Denver all the time for ballet class and whatever else they got going on. And I'm like, you guys want to listen to some music? And I'm shocked when they're like, yeah, let's listen to the Deftones. And I'm like, yes.
Getting the Smiths in here.
I'm like, let's go, And they're listening to like these bands that I kind of grew up on a little bit, and
all the 90s stuff is coming back.
Yeah.
Like the fashion for the girls, like the stuff they're wearing is all the same stuff that high school
Jenko
kids
jeans
wear.
need to be retired forever.
My wife agrees.
Huge ones,
she's like, no more low-rise, baggy. Come on.
Right. Let's just stick to Lululemon. I like that, like.
I know. I'm like I don't want to get into it.
No, we don't even need to.
I always have this conversation with my wife. I'm like, don't throw away the skinny jeans. Like,
right.
Come on, they'll
Keep
be back.
the yoga pants.
Yeah, come on. Dang it.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. Like my sons are 19 and 16, and my 19-year-old is always sending me stuff on Spotify. Like, check out this band. But I went down and visited him at college recently, and I was in his apartment. We're playing video games with his roommate, and we're listening to vinyl. He's got a record player, and he's got
vinyl's the best.
We were listening to it was their Nirvana live from New York, album
On vinyl.
on vinyl. And I was like, I'm so proud of you, son.
There's something about throwing that needle and like the hypnotism of the record, like spinning around, and it sounds different.
I thought everyone was full of shit when they were saying, the vinyl just sounds better, man. And now I'm like...
The problem with that is I don't even smoke weed, but anytime I'm listening to like vinyl, I'm like, dude, I think let's burn a J. Like, is that what you're feeling?
Get the Pink Floyd or the Led Zeppelin and let's do this.
Yeah. So when I was working with Long Beach Dub All-Stars back in the day, they had a whole deal where they were kind of big. Bradley had passed already, but they were selling like Sublime, like memorabilia, and was a big part of their income, rightfully so, because I love that fucking band and always have, and still do today. But I have every one of their albums, even the live albums, on vinyl because I was working for them. So
you know, a guy.
One of the things, it's so awesome. So I still have that collection. Then I have a really cool guy from Florida he was impressed that I was in the music business. He was an older dude, and he's like, man, I got all this vinyl. He's like, I'm just going to ship it to you, and ship me like 2 boxes. And it's like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon with the original posters in it.
Oh, man.
This dude had like a steel recorder or something. I don't even know what this is, but these records have only been played like one time because he would record it so you don't wear out the record or something. It was like some high-end shit that you could buy.
Okay.
Because that was a thing. Vinyl wears out, right? Eventually from that needle just riding those waves. And so he had some sort of system that would record it to a steel record. This was before cassette tapes, right?
Yeah.
So it was a way to record your records, and then you only played them once. And then if you ever needed to re-record it, you just play it again. So these things are like pristine. Like the folder has like the perfect creases in it. Pristine. And it's kind of cool because he had those press stamps, like a notary stamp?
Yep.
So he stamped his name in so they're not really like worth anything because he had the stamp thing, but it was his name.
Bullshit, they're worth a lot.
I'm sure.
Come on.
I would never sell them. I don't care if it's worth $100,000. I'm not getting rid of that. Like, those mean a lot to me because he gave them to me and kind of confided in me. He's like, please play these. Please share them, whatever you're going to do, but don't sell them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. So,
dude, we got to do that next time.
Yeah, I know. I should get a record player in here or something. And
Yeah, get rid of that Bluetooth speaker. Let's get a record player going.
The only reason that I would want to make millions and millions of dollars with this podcast is so I could buy the music rights to play whatever I want. Like, it's the only reason.
Ambitious project.
Just so we could play Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or something. But I'm such a music fanatic, so I'm sorry. We dove off on that. I always do on these. It's hard not to. But going back to West Point and graduating West Point, what do they give you an assignment, or did you know, like, how did you end up becoming a Green Beret and going through selection and all the stuff that you guys have to go through with that whole
I'll give you the short version of a long story. So the way it works at West Point is you pick your branch, and you just basically start with the person who's ranked number one.
West Point's not just Army?
No. So branch within the Army.
Oh,
so infantry, artillery, armor, that kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So they basically just take your class rank at the time, start with the person who's ranked number one in your class, all the way down to the bottom, and there's so many slots per year for each thing. So there's this many infantry slots, this many armor, this many engineer, this many
the best
aviation.
Performers get first pick.
That's right.
Okay.
Pays to be a winner.
That's cool.
So you work your way down, and you pick what branch you're going to, and if you're high enough in the class, you can kind of pick whatever you want. But if you're lower in the class, you kind of have to pick from whatever's left, right? So I picked to go armor, which is, again, a longer story, kind of a variety of reasons. But the main thing was I just thought being in the infantry was like, when I was at West Point, they really played up the infantry as like this super hua thing. And it was like too much. Like they laid it on too thick. And I was like, ugh, I'm not going to do that. Those guys are over the top, But then I thought maybe I really want to be in one of the maneuver branches, like infantry or armor, because those are the people who are really leading the columns of forces to do things. And everyone else is there to support the infantry and the armor in the maneuver branches, right? And a bunch of my friends were planning to go to Fort Hood, Texas, which is a great place to be an armor officer. There's lots of tanks, lots of training, lots of stuff to do. And this is all pre 9/11. So I decide.
So I'm sorry, just so I can get this right, an armor from my perspective, that's driving Humvee. It's
tanks.
Tanks. Strictly tanks, or is it
mostly
like,
tanks? Yes, that's what that means. Is tank battalions.
Nice.
The big 70-ton M1 tanks. And so
these things are badass.
And so then you pick your posts, like within your branch. Once you're infantry or armor or whatever, there are a certain number of slots to these various assignments around the world. And again, they just do it by class rank. So you pick, and then when there's no more Germany slots, then that's it, right?
Okay. And
so I picked to go to Fort Hood because while that was not exactly a cherry assignment, a lot of my friends were planning to go there, and I just wanted to be with my friends because again, pre 9/11, what I wanted to do during my 5 years in the military was be with my friends, do some cool stuff, go to lots of concerts, and that was about it. Mm-hmm. And so I chose to go there. I was the first person in my class to pick Fort Hood. The guys were like clapping for me because I didn't take one of the better slots off. They're like, "Yeah, dude, thanks for picking that slot." So then I go to the armor officer basic course at Fort Knox, Kentucky to learn how to be an armor officer and what's going on with all these tanks. And while I was there, 9/11 happened. And so now I'm going to Fort Hood, Texas to be an armor officer, to be a tank platoon leader. And the war is going to kick off where? In Afghanistan. And who's going to Afghanistan? The light fighters, the light infantry guys, the special operations guys. Mm-hmm. And those of us sitting in the motor pool with our tanks at Fort Hood aren't going anywhere because they don't even have a port. They don't have rail. Like you can't bring a tank to Afghanistan, right? And so I start immediately beating up the SF recruiters, the Special Forces recruiters at Fort Hood.
I'm going to slow you down here a little bit, if you don't mind. So you had started tank school.
Yep.
What are you doing at tank school? Are you guys driving, loading, shooting, everything?
Yeah. So you learn just enough to be dangerous as an officer, honestly. But yeah, you spend time learning to drive them, how to load them, how to shoot them, how to maintain them. You learn a lot about planning and strategy and writing operations orders and tactics, how to actually maneuver a tank platoon and do all that stuff.
And the gun on those things is freaking insane. Like it recoils into the turret, right? Or something like it'll take your head off, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's tiny in the turret and you've got 3 guys in the turret and 1 guy up front driving. And the gunner is basically sitting, if I was the tank commander, I'd be sitting in a seat like this. And I'd have a little joystick here and a sight I could look in. And the gunner is basically sitting right in my lap, like beneath me, straight in front of me. And he's got a double-handled thing that he can maneuver the turret with in the gun. And he's got a sight. And then right to my left, that is where the cannon recoils. And the breech is right here to be loaded. And there's a coaxial mounted machine gun right there as well.
I only know this because I got to tour one, and I physically could not fit inside.
It is very tight and uncomfortable.
They're like, you're too big. You'd be rolled over because your shoulders are too big to fucking fire the gun.
Yeah, maybe.
You can't get small enough.
Yeah. And then the loader is sitting on the other side of the breech where, he can open up this hatch and take a big, heavy-ass round out and then take it out and flip it over.
Is it a 105 or?
120. 120 millimeters. And the things are this long.
Yeah. We have the back half of a 105 here from a C-130. It's holding up the Bison skull right now.
I see it. Yeah, nice canister there. Yeah, and then has to put it in, close the breech, and when the loader says up, that means the cannon is loaded and I am out of the way. That's what that means. Not the cannon's loaded. It means it's loaded, I'm out of the way. And then, the tank commander or the gunner will say, on the way, squeeze the trigger. Whoom, that cannon recoils all the way back into the turret. Round goes out, the loader pulls it, shell comes out, put the next one in.
That's so crazy.
I mean, it's one of the coolest things ever, though. I mean, imagine, those things do like 55 miles an hour. The ballistics on them, it's space age stuff.
Is a 9mm even fun after that?
It's a very different ballgame, I'll tell you that, right?
Right. Dude, that's so crazy. I'm so fascinated by that just because of the sheer... I just love military power. Like one of my favorite places to hang out is Coronado just because of the aircraft that's going up and down the beach. And then the NASCAR track in Vegas is amazing for military aircraft. But you never get to see those like tanks and stuff. Like actually that Abrams tank that I saw was at an air show And then the first one I saw, and then the second one we were shooting. I was a rock and roll advisor on the movie Pitch Perfect 3.
No, 3.
Yeah, dude, it's so stupid. But it was cool because we got to go. We went to a bunch of military bases in Georgia. One of them is shut down now, but it's where like Bush and everybody went and all the command went during 9/11. And there was like a war room down there or something that we got to go like tour. But on this active base, there was a bunch of Abrams tanks there.
Fort Stewart, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, there's some luxuries to being the only civilians on base because you get to meet some cool guys that want to show you some cool shit. And it's like, I'm super lucky in that. But yeah, those things are so amazing. I would love to see one fire, but what is it? I mean, can you feel like the shock wave or?
Yeah.
Dude, 120 millimeter
it's
size shell filled with gunpowder, right?
Yeah. Propellant.
And then, and then the actual projectile, how much does that thing weigh? It's got to be like...
Well, so there are different projectiles. Primarily there's what's called a sabot round, which is really a depleted uranium dart. So it comes out of the cannon with these, they're called sabot pedals around it that keep it moving smoothly through the bore of the cannon and pointed in the right direction. And then they get caught by the wind and peel away once it's out of the muzzle. And it's only about this big, but it's made of depleted uranium and it's traveling at like a mile per second.
So it's just melting
So it just rips through. It's a piercing round essentially, right? So it's armor to armor type thing. And there's another round called a heat round, which is basically a high explosive round. And so it's bigger and heavier and has a kind of a bigger payload that goes downrange. And it has like explosives in it. So it hits things and blows up. Versus the sabot round, which is just that.
It's so crazy. We have a sponsor called Sabot. They make broadheads for archery.
Yeah,
they're amazing. Yeah, I'll show you one after this. Yeah,
same concept.
Same concept. It's a mechanical broadhead, and it's basically will penetrate ribs or whatever. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
So being a tank platoon leader was one of the coolest things ever. I mean, I'm glad to have had the opportunity. It was just amazing to be out there training and driving around and shooting those things, shooting them at night. I mean, it was awesome. It was just that I just realized really quickly that like we're not going to be involved in the war. And in retrospect, it's easy to kind of, the war went on for 20 years and we went into Iraq and blah, blah, blah. But, if you're a 22, 23-year-old kid and you think there's going to be this very fast war in Afghanistan and that's going to be the war and I'm going to miss it.
Right.
I
think a lot of guys,
where my head was at.
Even guys like Brandon, I think, explained this, like, all the conflicts were so fast leading up to that,
Our frame
from
of
World
reference
War
was
II, or Vietnam, I think was probably the last.
Sure, definitely a long war.
Long war, right? And then you get into everything else was just done in a flash, right? Almost.
Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, they were all just...
Somalia, all that stuff.
High intensity, short duration stuff.
Right.
And we just, I just felt like I was going to miss it. And, we were enraged after 9/11 and, all wanted to get over there and get some.
I tried to enlist and they wouldn't. I had a criminal case at the time. So
there you go.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing while you were in college playing golf. As I was working and anyways, that's a long story. I'll tell you after the recording. And I'm pretty sure the audience has heard it several times, but you were in tank school when the towers actually were attacked.
Yep.
So how do you unenroll from that or drop out to go be a Green Beret or Special Forces?
I didn't.
Okay.
There's no way. So what happened is I went down to my unit at Fort Hood. I became a tank platoon leader. And I tried to do my very best at that job. I think I did a pretty good job. But I would go to the SF recruiter's office. Like most of the major installations had a little office somewhere where there were like a couple of Green Berets that were on recruiting duty or something. And I found those guys and I started beating them up. I'm like, hey, what do I got to do to put my packet in to go to selection? And they were nice guys to me and they kind of gave me the training packet and told me what I needed to do. But I think probably by the third or fourth time I showed up, they were like, hey, dude, it's too early. Go be a platoon leader. Like, you have stuff you need to do right now. Why don't you just go do that? And, when it's time, then, we'll let you know. Because the deal is you have to be a first lieutenant promotable, meaning like you're almost a captain in 03 before you can even go to selection.
Really?
Yeah, on the officer side. So I just kind of had to bide my time. And what ended up happening is I did a little over a year as a tank platoon leader. And then I got a job as brigade reconnaissance platoon leader. So I went from being on a tank to being up at the brigade level now in a very small unit, just 2 platoons that did, it was called the Brigade Reconnaissance Team. So this is now like Humvee and foot-based reconnaissance that's intended to be out in front of a brigade-size element. So 3 battalions or 4 battalions of mechanized stuff, tanks and Bradleys and whatnot.
Spotter element or
exactly.
Overwatch.
You're the scouts.
Yeah, scouts. Okay.
You're the scouts. So I became a scout platoon leader. And that fit my personality better. I was like, oh, this is cool. It's like not a ton of time in the motor pool. It's more time training. The soldiers were great. I really enjoyed the Cav Scout soldiers. And I was in that job for over a year when we finally got orders to go to Iraq. The war kicked off in Iraq. And we're like, all right, we're going. And we thought, as the first Cav, we were told all along that if there is a ground war in Iraq, we are going, and we are going to be the hammer of that offensive force. We're going and we're going to bring it. And we were like, okay, let's go. And then the war gets ready to start, and they sent the 4th Infantry Division, who was across post from us, instead of us. So we were not going to be there for the ground war, for the invasion of Iraq. So now I'm like,
pissed were you?
I was real pissed.
Yeah,
we all were. And I feel a little silly thinking that now, but like we were upset that we were not going to be there for the invasion. Because again, we thought it was going to be like Desert Storm, probably.
Right.
We're going to sweep across the desert. We're going to smash Saddam's army. We're going to march into Baghdad, be greeted as liberators.
Right.
And it's going to be over, and we're going to miss it. So I was really kind of bent at this point. And we were going to be the brigade reconnaissance team. So we were going to be the guys out there like snooping around and like calling in strikes and it was going to be so awesome. And we didn't get to do it. And we finally got orders to go in January of 04. And if you can remember back then, 03, intense at the beginning, then it was pretty slow for a while in 03. We kind of was occupying Baghdad and figuring some stuff out. A little bit of resistance, not a lot. And then in December of 03, they caught Saddam. Right. And so then it was like, now it's really over. And we're just going to be batting cleanup and doing jack shit, standing out manning checkpoints for a year in the blazing sun. So we were not enthusiastic really about this deployment. But I was still in the brigade recon team, and I was still a scout platoon leader, and I was going to get a chance to do the deployment in that job. So we went over there in January of 04. And by the spring of 04, it was just mayhem. Everything had flipped. The insurgency had gained momentum. The insurgency up to that point was all really Sunni, like Ba'athist, loyal Saddam types, from the Sunni, the Wahhabis, some people that had kind of come in from Saudi Arabia and stuff. But the Shia were generally pretty welcoming of us. Welcoming is maybe the wrong word, but there wasn't a lot of resistance. But then Muqtada al-Sadr had basically, inspired a fatwa and said, we're going to oust the Americans. They're not welcome here anymore. And it got ugly very, very fast.
Is that when Fallujah and all those spots exploded,
yes.
right?
Yes. So Baghdad went nuts, Sadr City, Tikrit, Fallujah, Ramadi, even down in further in the south in Najaf. There was a huge battle down there for the mosque. They'd kind of hold up. That was all in 04. And then the big battle of Fallujah was in, I think, November of 04. And the big Shia uprising was in April of 04. So we pretty quickly shifted from this is going to be boring to there's IEDs everywhere, there's war in the streets, people are getting killed. This is very serious. And that's when I really, the SF recruiters started to make more sense to me. Then I'm like, I got stuff to do. This is pretty important. I should probably just focus on doing this. But while I was in that job, we had a chance to work fairly closely from time to time with some guys from 5th Special Forces Group. And they were badass, man. They were awesome. And I was really blown away by how smart they were and how good they were and how effective they were. What they were doing was actually working. They were pulling some bad guys off the street. And they were so busy that they would come by every now and then and give us a little target packet and say hey, we don't have time for this. This isn't super high priority for us, but this is good intel. If you want to go get it, and maybe let us know how it goes. And so that was the coolest because it was like Christmas. They would give us a present and then we would go look for this weapons cache or whatever, and it would actually be there. And we're like, wow, this is amazing.
We're actually doing shit.
Yeah,
right?
This is way cooler than driving
Yeah.
around chasing ghosts, chasing rocket trails and conducting movement to IED, which is what a lot of people were doing at that time. And that really solidified it for me that this is the way to go. And if I'm going to stick around and if I'm not going to have to come back here, I want to do that and not this. Not that I didn't love what I was doing, but I knew my time was up. I was never going to have another chance to do that. And so about halfway through the deployment, I got word that my packet had gotten picked up. I was going to be offered an opportunity to go to selection. And so right when I got home from that deployment, 2 weeks after I got home, I went to SFAS at Camp McCall, which is a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's super quick.
Yeah, but I was pretty enthusiastic about doing it at the time.
Wow. Third group, right? If I remember right, reading in the book.
Yeah, I ended up, so I went to selection, got into the Q course. It's like a 2-year pipeline. I kind of got pooped out the other end and got assigned to third group at Fort Bragg.
And then how fast out of selection do you have a workup for 6 months, a year, or 2 years where you're getting some other courses or something, or is it just straight onto the battlefield? And
so it certainly could be. It just wasn't for me.
Okay.
When I showed up at 1st Battalion, 3rd Group, they were just coming back from a deployment. So again, I was a little bit oh man, it's going to be a while before we go again. But at that time, the SF groups were going over pretty regularly. So I knew I was going to get a combat deployment while I was on a team. It just wasn't going to happen for maybe another year and a half, which turned out to be fine because, we got some new guys on our team and we had a chance to do a ton of training. So some guys went to sniper school or Sephardic or different things like that. Some guys went to Ranger school even. We got to do the Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat course a couple of times as a team together, which was awesome. Got to learn a ton doing that. And we went off and did a bunch of training and great group of guys. I mean, we were really close knit, just trained really hard. Even when there wasn't a lot of training money, our team would find ways to go out in the back 40 and patrol and train and do PT. And, we'd find ammo where there was ammo and go shoot ranges and
Really?
do stuff. Yeah, I mean, we were
That's awesome.
we were very resourceful. I mean,
Yeah.
SF guys are kind of like that anyway.
Right.
But we didn't take the red cycle lying down.
I thought it was really cool too. I remember reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be getting your and Brandon's stories crossed. I don't know if you were at third group, but there was something in there where you guys knew that you probably wouldn't be called up on missions or something, or called up to go on a deployment if you guys didn't really get after it and be a team. So if one guy went to school, you guys expected him to graduate top of the class in that school. It was kind of the standards, and it was kind of self-accountability within the group. To be part of the team this is what you're expected to do, right? So it wasn't like a mandated thing from the higher command or something. You guys were expecting this from each other.
That's mostly it. Yeah. So SF teams are reasonably autonomous. I mean, you still have, take orders and have to do things all the time, but you do have a certain degree of autonomy in terms of how hard you want to push. You don't have to push to get your guys into schools if you don't want to. You don't have to train really hard at PT every day. You don't have to push to get extra ammo to shoot more ranges. Yeah, you don't have to do those things, but I think good teams do. Mm-hmm. And, we knew that if there was another deployment, we were going to go, but there's a lot of different assignments within a given deployment. And in that world, your team's reputation is really everything. And if you want a difficult or a good or a high-profile assignment, they're going to give it to the teams that they can count on. And if your team doesn't have a good reputation, you're going to get probably a lower-end kind of assignment. And, once you get downrange, who knows? Lots of things can happen lots of places, so you don't take anything for granted. But we were just really serious about wanting to be a good team, for each other and for obvious reasons. You want to know what you're doing and have your shit together if you're going to have to go fight. But I think we also had a lot of pride, and we just wanted to, do a good job and have a good reputation and be one of the teams that would be considered for a more serious assignment if that time came.
Mm-hmm. When you guys go into a corporation, you and Brandon with Applied Leadership Partners, and you're reflecting back, because you guys do a lot of that in this book. Like when Brandon first sent me the book, I think I listened to an audio. I was like, okay, so it's going to be another, self-help book or whatever. But it starts off with a combat deployment story. And like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's not what I was expecting. And I was like, wow, this is a wild story. And then it relates back to, you guys kind of go back in and is like, this taught me this lesson to be able to teach this to a corporation when somebody's failing at leadership or whatever problems you're trying to fix. How much of being at the armor, why can't I say that word? Like when you were commanding tanks or brigade leader?
Brigade reconnaissance, yeah.
Yeah. Do some of those skills translate over too? Because I think mostly what you wrote about in here was Green Beret, third group stuff, right? A lot of experience from that. But it sounds like you have so much experience prior to that, being at West Point and organizing yourself for school and staying on top of all of that. And then going in and learning with your first assignment, learning everything you had to be a brigade leader at that point. Did any of that translate into you helping you get through selection? And then have you also taken some of those models and put them to work with corporations or in this book or applied leadership partners?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear. The things that I learned at West Point and in the big Army, the conventional Army, priceless. I mean, maybe the majority of the stuff I've learned about leadership, I learned in the conventional Army. The reason, Brandon and I essentially each tell one story for our military career. Brandon tells his from Winter Strike 2003, and I tell mine from my deployment to Afghanistan on a team in 2009, primarily because those are the two most profound experiences of perseverance, where we learned about that specific thing.
Significant, yeah.
But if you want to talk about leadership, I mean, I think we've learned a lot about leadership in all sorts of places, including, my time in the conventional military. And we do work a lot of those things into the work we do in our business. I mean, we also, by the way, take tons of lessons that we learn from being in a commercial healthcare organization and being sales professionals.
You guys aren't going in there as drill instructors and smashing people's heads off desks or anything?
Thank you for clarifying that. No, we don't do any of that stuff, in fact.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. I mean, some of the most important lessons I've learned about business and leadership was when I was the executive director at Team RWB for 5 years. I mean, you want to learn something about leadership, try being the CEO of a nonprofit, or try running a nationwide mission that serves over 100,000 people and with 30 employees and 1,500 volunteers.
Not only serving people, but like serving people that are in pretty bad shape, right?
Some of them, sure. Yeah. So what we bring to the table from a business perspective is a wide range of experiences.
So it's a culmination of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know how often we use direct references to our military experiences or stories from our military experience, but it's not as often as you might think. I mean, the book has quite a bit of that in there, again, because of the specific nature of this topic of perseverance and how we learned that. But what we do in our business is much, much broader.
There's so much more to all my friends that are from special operations than just their career too. So like to kind of bring it back to my buddy Richie and him creating this topper, like he's never done anything like that, right? Like he's kicked down 100 doors in training or what, probably thousands or whatever, right? But yeah, I think that there's so much more to the stories and to what people do that's life experience, Yeah. No matter what you do, whether you were in the military or not, it's like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many smart, capable people out there that we have so much to learn from, and we do all the time. And we often remind ourselves that people will not take these frameworks and put them into practice if they don't trust us, if they don't believe that what we're saying works, right? So we have to earn their trust, sometimes very quickly. And our belief is that trust lives at the intersection of credibility and relatability. And so what you can do, especially as a former soft guy or as a former executive or CEO or whatever, is you just lean really hard on the credibility piece. You're a former pro athlete or an MMA fighter or a soft guy or whatever, right? I have all this credibility. But if you don't have enough, if you can't relate to them, if you can't say, like, I've been a new sales rep and I know what it's like going out there making cold calls and getting doors slammed on my face. I know what it's like leading a startup and being the first employee and then having a team of 8 and then almost running out of cash. Like, we have all of those stories, and we'll find the right one to share so that we can actually relate to people and say, we don't know you or your business as well as you do, but we can empathize with where you're at.
Yeah.
And we can take these things that we've learned maybe way out at the tip of the spear and make them make sense to you so that you can use them, right? You have to have the relatability. But if you go too far on the other end and you're just way too relatable, like, they might want to have a beer with you, but they're not going to really trust you that you can guide them, So
we're going to the strip club.
Yeah, exactly. So we're always trying to, keep that in balance. Is we want to make sure that we leverage our experience so that we're credible when we're coming in and we've only got a few minutes to kind of get people to pay attention and invest in this or not. But we've got to make it as relatable as possible, or they're going to be like, yeah, that's a cool story, bro, but I'm not sure what that has to do with me.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's key, because I even see it in the podcast space. Just because somebody was played in the NFL or was a former Green Beret or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're good at podcasting.
No.
Right?
No.
It has nothing to do with it, but you can start something that way, right, and get better. And I think having a place to start too is huge, and not feeling like you're not good enough to start something, right? Like, or to take that next step, even if you've been at something for 10 years, like, how often you have to push through thresholds to get to that other side or that next level, I think is huge. So taking it back to your deployments and your first deployment, was that at Anaconda? Am I remembering that correctly?
When I was on a team in 2009, we went to Firebase Anaconda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's so much, I don't want to spoil anything that's in the book. So
all right,
I've read so much about it. So if you're interested in that deployment, go and pick up the book.
Yeah, chapter
right
2.
now.
I don't want to talk about it anyway. It's
okay, cool. Let's not talk about it.
I mean, we can if you want, but
no, I think where I want to go with this is stuff that's not in the book. So these are like all the questions that I had. It's figuring out you. So you met Brandon. So post-military, you get out.
Yep.
What does life look like after that? Because I think transition is a big thing for guys, right? Like,
oh yeah,
transition is probably one of the hardest things you go through, because now you're not, the uniform's hung up. You don't have to put on body armor. You don't get real rock and roll, right? Like, you're not kicking down doors anymore, or breaching doors, or doing that level of training. Not only that, I think it's the missing brotherhood or team that's around you, right? Because
Huge.
now you're just not part of the group, right? Now
That's
you're
right.
just kind of on your own. You're like, you got to go to the grocery store. You got to pick the kids up from school, like all that stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
but really, I think what I found is it's trying to find another place to like fit in, or and with some of the nonprofits that I work with, there's a huge emphasis on that, like the transitional point. I think that might be the hardest part, right?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's probably as hard now as it was then, but it was really hard then, because the war and my experience in the wars was so intense, and there was so little for us when we got out. So I got out in early 2010, and there was the VA, which at that point didn't exactly have their act together. And there was the Wounded Warrior Project, I think, which was doing a pretty good job at working primarily with like severely wounded folks, And so for people like me that had all 10 fingers and 10 toes and had the ability to get a good job, there wasn't really much out there.
Right.
And candidly, I wasn't looking for anything. My idea of getting out was to kind of turn the page. And I thought for a little while about working in some version of the industrial complex, right? Like going to work at Raytheon or Northrop Grumman or something, and kind of
Right.
staying in the general vicinity. But I ultimately decided like I could always probably go back and do that if I really needed to. So I wanted to at least give myself a shot at like making a clean break and going into a more traditional job. And that was it was stupid to think that that was ever going to work. But it made sense in my head at the time. I was like, all right, I got these 2 young kids. My second son was born like 2 weeks after I got home from that deployment in 2009.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I have this deployment where things just go absolutely sideways. Yeah, and it's just, absolutely traumatic experience. I come home and, my wife is 9 months pregnant. I've got a kid that's going to be born any day. I have a 3-year-old who, is my little buddy, and I've not been around for basically any of his life at this point, doesn't seem like. And you just want to turn the page. Like, you just want to move on. You don't want to think about that anymore. And every part of you is saying, like, that we should be thrilled to be home. I should be so grateful to have made it home because it was certainly not looking good there for a while for me.
Right.
And you just don't process that stuff. And meanwhile, my wife, too, had been through incredible hardship and trauma while I was downrange, having to be there while... not knowing if I'm going to make it back or not, and having my teammates, being killed and having to be with their wives and loved ones. I mean, it was incredibly
the families of the special operations community it's insane what they have to go through and what they endure. Yeah. It's almost like, when you guys deploy or when they deploy, it's almost like a deployment at home, right? Because now you got to pick up the missing pieces, the slack, there's all that. And then you have the whole community aspect, kind of the family aspect of taking care of other families and stuff too. It's a commitment, man. Yeah.
And so we did our best, but we had our hands full. We had a little 3-year-old and a newborn, and we were just excited to be together. And we had made the decision we were going to transition out of the Army like before that deployment. So we kind of went about then figuring out that process of just kind of mechanically getting out of the Army and the things that you have to kind of administratively and logistically do there. And I started focusing on what I thought was the right thing, which was like, I got to get a job. If I'm not going to be in the Army anymore, I got to do something. And so I go through the process of looking for a job and interviewing for jobs and doing things like that. And that was going to dictate where we were going to live. So our life was really up in the air. We didn't know where we were going to move to or what kind of house we were going to have or what I was going to do for work. So a lot of question marks now at this really vulnerable period, of our lives. And
were you able to fall back on a college degree at all, or think a little bit?
Getting a job was no problem.
Really?
So having been an SF officer and a West Point grad and having a degree, there are these firms out there, they call them JMO recruiting firms, junior military officer, and all they do is go around to bases and talk to guys like me and convince me to go to these like hiring conferences, during which they'll help you with your resume and your interview prep and stuff. And then you go to a conference. I think I went to 1 or 2 of them. I can't remember. But they'll line you up 6 or 7 interviews with good companies, Johnson & Johnson or Stryker or whatever for these various jobs, depending on kind of what you want to get into. And then you see if you get any offers and maybe you get a second or a third interview. And, then you go wherever in the country, the job opportunity is. And that's kind of what we were doing. And we had a list of places that we were going to be okay going, but we weren't really like, we're definitely going to move there. And we also weren't like, we'll just go anywhere. So I went through this process and was offered a couple of jobs, and one of them was a healthcare sales job that was going to be based out of like Tampa or Orlando, Florida. And I grew up in Florida. My wife at the time was also from Florida, and we just thought like, we got 2 super young kids. This will be a chance to kind of go home, and the grandparents won't be too far away. And this is a job where you could potentially make a decent amount of money. I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, I could, kind of make my own hours.
Like pharmaceutical sales?
Kind of. We sold cancer diagnostics.
Really?
So, a little different. But, So I accepted this job.
That's an entirely different world, huh?
Yeah, right? And
dealing with doctors. And
driving around in a Toyota Camry every day with a tie on, knocking on doors at surgery centers and clinics and hospitals.
Wow.
Just trying to get a word with the doctor.
Calling?
Straight up cold calling. All day, every day, buddy.
Dude.
Hoping you could maybe make an appointment to see the doctor, or you could schedule to bring in lunch and maybe get 5 minutes with the doctor. I mean, it is a fist fight every day.
They're so overwhelmed already, man. It's
and you're going in there bothering them with your tie on. Like, hey, could I talk to the doctor? I know he's an oncologist wanting to talk to,
The whole sales side of that is just It's crazy too, because you got to take them to dinners or
The business of
hang out.
medicine
Yeah,
is, we could
it's
get
wild,
into that. Yeah.
wild.
So, we're out there trying to make sales and, over time I figured out how to be good at it. Like an SF guy, I had to like kind of step back and be like,
Breach the door.
I'm like, there are better ways maybe for me to do this with my skill set than the traditional kind of just wearing a suit and knocking on a lot of doors. And I figured some things out, like where I could actually maybe have a little bit better traction and what kinds of medical practices might be a little more amenable to hearing from a guy like me. And I didn't know a lot about medicine.
Did you enjoy that though? I mean, was that?
For the most part, no.
Yeah.
There were aspects of it I enjoyed. I mean, it was competitive. I had a chance to kind of, eat what you kill kind of thing. And once I got better at it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. It was thrilling sometimes in that way. But what I couldn't shake was the idea that I was just by myself every day, driving around in a car.
You're not home with your kids.
Team,
no
no real mission. And also I'm freshly out of this like war experience where 5 of my teammates were killed and it's like all my fault. And so I've got that track playing in my head and I'm just trying to distract myself with like sports talk radio or something. I actually spent a lot of time during those couple of years. My dad had recently retired right around the same time. And so I would call him up. I'm just driving around. He's like, where in Florida are you now? I'm like, oh, I'm in Ocala, driving up I-75. And we would just talk about sports or whatever because he had just retired. So he had kind of his own transition.
Yeah.
And so we were sort of going through it together a little bit.
That's cool.
And so it was a cool way to reconnect with my dad a little bit, which I enjoyed. And I would call friends and I'd call people like Brandon, and you just complain or, talk about whatever.
That's what friends do best, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To make it better. So it was a good company and they were really good to me and I got pretty good at it and I made a decent amount of money, but I was just I felt like a shell of myself. And a lot of it just kind of brought me like shame. I had a nice home in a gated community and a swimming pool and a 3-car garage and my kids went to Montessori school and it all should have been like aces. But I was just really, really struggling. I couldn't shake, the fact that I had gone down range for my last time after having like almost like a peerless military career. And then having that happen and then walking away, it felt a lot like I'd done.
There wasn't redemption or?
Yeah, it felt like I'd quit.
Okay.
Right? Which I can look back on now and I know that's not what happened.
Right.
But in my head in those days, it felt like I had a great career, had gone on my last deployment, gotten my ass kicked and quit.
Yeah.
And I couldn't shake it. And I was dissatisfied at home. I started, I think, to kind of resent my family because in my own head, had said like I got out of the Army so I could be home with these guys and now I'm miserable and my guys are over there without me. And, I loved them, but I think
Was there a why in the road to stay in too at that point? Like was that?
Yeah. So I had actually worked when I was on a team. I'd gone up on my own dime. I'd taken some leave and I'd went up to West Point to try to interview for a job to go back and teach at West Point. And I got it. And West Point had sent a by name request to the Special Forces branch and said, hey, we want this guy to come back in, 2010 and go to grad school and then come back and teach. And I thought this was going to be smooth sailing. I thought it was a done deal. And so I was going to stay in the Army. And I was going to finish up my time at 3rd Group after 3 or 4 years, go to grad school at like Columbia or Harvard or Stanford or somewhere, and then go teach at West Point for 2 or 3 years. And that was going to be enough to kind of get the family on solid footing. And then by then, I guess I would have been, 13 or 14 or 15 years into my service, and you figure out what to do for another 5 years and retire. So I'd planned actually to stay in. And pretty shortly before my deployment, I got like an unceremonious 1-line email from the SF branch chief that just said, we've rescinded your by name request because we don't feel that it fits with your career timeline or something like that. And I was like, the fuck? And so I called the folks at West Point and I was like, hey, I got this email. Like, are we screwed or can we do? And they're like, this happens. We'll work it out. Like we get the people we want. We'll make it happen. I'm like, okay. And then I get an email from them a few weeks later, like, hey, we're not getting much traction here. Do you know any like general officers or anybody that can?
Why do you think they shut it down?
I don't know, because I had other classmates that ended up going and doing it.
Really?
I'm not sure if it was I don't know. I don't know if it was based on my record that they just thought I was surely planning to do something like become a tactical battalion commander or whatever. I don't know what it was. But it really pissed me off. And I actually talked to the branch chief and I was like, what is the story with this? And he said, you probably think, that my job is to match your unique skills and experiences with and the needs of your family and blah, blah, blah. My job at the end of the day is to put butts in seats. And I was like, dude,
really?
I'm an SF officer. I fought in 2 wars. I've gotten nothing but 1 block OERs my entire time. Like, would you rather not have a butt to put in a seat? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. And I got no traction.
Really?
And
Dude, that...
It seems crazy. I made peace with it.
I'm mad about it, and it didn't even happen to me.
And
yeah.
I wasn't bitter about it. I was disappointed, but here's what it told me.
Right.
It told me more about me than about the Army. And what I mean by that is it gave me a chance for some introspection, and what I realized was I loved soldiers. I loved soldiering. I didn't love the Army. Because really there was this one assignment that if I would have gotten, I'd have been happy to stay. But when that went away, I was like, I don't really want to stay.
Yeah.
Because it was either, for me, it was either like go try to be in a tier 1 unit, which was not going to fly at home. And not to say that I could have, I don't know that. Or go teach at West Point and take a little bit of a different angle. And neither of those were on the table anymore. And I was like, I guess I just need to get out. I guess I don't really love the Army to where I want to spend the next 12 or 13 years of my life just kind of hanging in there to get a retirement. Right. I'm still young. I'm like 31, 32 years old. I can go do something else. So it's kind of fish or cut bait moment.
Yeah, and it's so different, right? From what I've been told is like once you get in those administrative roles, and no matter what branch of the military you're in, it's just that the operator thing is so rock and roll, man. It's so rock and roll.
Yeah, and I had lived the dream in the Army to that point. Like
right.
I had been a tank platoon leader, a reconnaissance platoon leader, and an SF team leader, and that's it.
So to go do anything else would be so hard.
I didn't have any interest in doing anything else.
Yeah.
I'd gotten to do everything I'd ever wanted to do in the Army and then some. And you're right, being
Abrams tank flying with the 160th probably, like you're
smashing cars, shooting concealed pistols, like you get to do the coolest stuff.
Yeah, it's so rock and roll.
And I didn't want to do anything else. And I was like, well, I would rather just make a total departure and try to reboot my life and be with my family than be at the whims of Uncle Sam when he views me as a butt to put in a seat.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Which now
what did they mean by that? Like to file paperwork or whatever they needed, right?
I don't know if it was that so much as, you are an officer, you have kind of a career timeline. There are wickets you need to hit in order to kind of stay on track. And we don't want you deviating too much from what we have kind of prescribed as the path. And, some of that it's understandable. And,
right.
Again, if I had loved the Army, I would have said, hey, yes, sir. I'll stay here at 3rd Group and I'll do something else, or I'll go off and do something at the schoolhouse, or whatever you need me to do. I'll do it. And I'll hit whatever wickets I need to hit to eventually come back and command an SF company, then command a battalion, and then try to be competitive for a group command, blah, blah, blah. Lots of people want to do that.
Right.
And I didn't intend on doing more than my 5-year commitment when I graduated West Point. I only stayed in because of 1, 9/11, and 2, I got a chance to work with SF guys, and I was like, that shit's cool.
Right.
I want to go do
your
that.
5 and leave, right?
Yes.
Like, thanks for the education.
Yeah. I took classes my senior year at West Point. This is how crazy I was. I took an extra course both semesters of my senior year. I already had 6 courses. I took 7 courses both semesters of my senior year because I had called down to the University of Texas in Austin. And I said, I want to join your engineering management graduate program. Can you send me the course load? And they sent me the courses back that you have to take to graduate that program. And some of them were taught at West Point as part of the undergrad. And so I called back and I said, hey, if I take engineering management 401 and if I take, statics and dynamics and some of these engineering courses, can I not have to pay for them in grad school? Because this is before the post 9/11 GI Bill or any of that stuff. And they're like, yeah. So I took 2 courses at West Point because I thought I'm going to get for free.
You might be the most proactive person I've ever had in here. It's just crazy.
This is where my head was at. I was thinking about my life 10 steps ahead, as if I could actually, make it happen, and, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans,
Right.
What's the thing about, God's, you make plans and God laughs or whatever. Yeah. So I wanted to go down to Fort Hood. I wanted to go to Pat Green concerts and the Margarita Festival and float the river and shoot big guns and get a master's degree in engineering management from the University of Texas and get out in 5 years and go work for Dell or HP or whatever.
Right.
That's what I thought I was going to do. And so when I got to this crossroads, 10 years later, and they're like, yeah, you're a butt to put in a seat. I was like, nah, not really.
What were the biggest mistakes that you made during that transition, and because you fell into a career that you didn't really want to have, and I'm putting words into your mouth right now.
Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't.
The marriage is on the rocks at the time. You got young kids, there's so much going on, man. That's like, I don't think there could be any more on your plate probably at that point.
Yeah,
there probably could be, but that's a freaking lot to have on your plate.
Yeah, and I was going into the MBA program at the University of Florida too, so I was going one weekend a month through that. Yeah. Real glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
I know we got dinner reservations, so I could go on all night about all the stuff I did wrong.
We got plenty of time. I made the reservations for 7, but we can show up early. I would like to take a restroom break because I've been hydrating
Okay, because I got a list as long as my arm of all the stuff I screwed up when I got out of the Army.
No, let's not go down that road then. Okay. I just think it's helpful because we have a lot of guys that are active duty that listen to this. We have some people that are out and transitioning. A lot of our guests that have been on. My buddy Ben Davis writes articles on just transition.
Yeah.
Ben. Shout out to Ben. He's a great dude. So it's always something that I kind of like to touch on and hear that story because it's good for me too, because I feel like I'm constantly transitioning in life, and it can apply to you whether you were in the military or not. So let's take a quick 5.
Yeah, I'll go too.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell. And I didn't take the tag off.
I almost said something I should have, but I thought some guys roll like that.
That was like the gangster way to roll, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I thought you were just trying to be fucking cool as shit.
No, dude,
I couldn't pull that off. You were pulling it off.
I can't pull it off.
You're pulling it off great.
I think it's on the other side of the camera. Well, maybe not. I don't care. It's rad. Thanks for the hat, by the way. We are back. That was a good needed break. But I looked in the mirror and I was like, shit, I didn't take the tag off. Dude, this is so awesome because the last 2 days we recorded with Brandon and Ellie on Monday.
Yeah.
And then I flew to Vegas in between and had all the post-production and did a community thing. And then this is like my place to relax. So I'm really enjoying this, man. So thanks for carving some time out and coming in and hanging out. Because it's like, this is my decompression man cave or whatever you want to call it. It's my studio,
pretty good spot.
This is pretty
spot.
Cool. Yeah. It's pretty chill, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good environment. So sorry, before we took the break, we were talking about transition. I think it's super important just to touch on it. I know you have a list as long as your arm, and I don't want to burn through all of that, but maybe just some words of encouragement or for some words of advice for anybody that might be going through that and what helped you out.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake I made was not taking the time to really be deliberate and get on the same page with my spouse. Because I think we both sort of thought we're gonna leave this military thing behind. There's gonna be no more deployments, no more casualties, no more 6-week training rotations. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna move to Florida. We're gonna be a family. We're gonna have a swimming pool. It's gonna be great. And what
you got to live with each other.
Yeah, yeah. And look, we really actually liked each other, but what we didn't do. And look, this is my version of it, so this may not be exactly right, but what we didn't do was have enough real conversations about what's going to happen, what's going to be the priority, what do you really want and hope to get out of this, what do we want our lives to look like in 5 years? But we were young family, young kids. Money was not growing on trees. I had to get a job, we had to pay the mortgage, we had to find a house, and and we just never really got on the same page. And it didn't happen immediately, but it took, 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years down the road. You're kind of a little bit apart. But as you get further down the road, you end up pretty far apart if you never kind of come back and reconcile these things. And you start to build up resentments. I probably resented my family a little bit because I was not loving my life.
Yeah.
And, I know she certainly resented me for dragging her all over the place all these Army years. And now that we're finally out, it's like not really about her, probably the way that she wanted it to be. And it just was, it became like too hard to get back on the same page and really for no good reason. You know what I mean? It wasn't like fighting, infidelity, alcoholism, gambling. None of the things that really can like harpoon a family happened to us. It was like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
And that probably didn't have to happen, but we just did not know what we didn't know. We did not work hard enough to really be together through it all.
Yeah, and you got to kind of take care of yourself. I mean, as selfish as it sounds, you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. Like that's been one of the hardest lessons for me to learn. Is like I need that gym time, or I need that trail, or this elk hunt, or whatever, right? And sometimes people can use that as an excuse, but if you
so we didn't do that. That was a big one. I think the other one was just thinking that, or, the idea that any job you get fresh out of the special operations community is going to give you a fraction of what your old job gave you is a stupid idea.
There's
right?
nothing.
So your old job gave you sense of purpose, income, your friends, recreation. Even if you think about it, like being an SF guy, you get to do so much cool shit. Like you almost don't need hobbies because you got all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get a regular job, which might be a perfectly good job, and you're going to resent that job because it doesn't give you an intense sense of purpose. You're not super close with your coworkers. Well, that's not a realistic expectation. And so what I should have done, and what I recommend a lot of people do, is just accept that for what it is, and maybe just go to work, as hard as that is to say, at least for a little while. Go to work, but play rec soccer, join a CrossFit gym, be a part of the running club, volunteer with a nonprofit. Now there's lots of great veteran serving nonprofits, so go find one of these veteran nonprofits that you can make some friends and get some workouts in and do stuff like that. And
something to get a team back around you, right? Or some camaraderie.
Yeah, and fill out some of those other aspects of who you are and your life that you're not going to get from your job. You're going to have to find some of that stuff in other places. And I didn't really appreciate that either. And so I wasn't taking the time, like you were saying, to ride my mountain bike or go play golf or meet. But I didn't even really try to make friends. I was like, well, who has time for that? I got a job.
Focused on the career.
I got 2 small kids at home. And I just kind of went on the grind, which is maybe another kind of thematic failing of mine, which was, I just felt like I had to go so fast. Everything was so urgent. I got to get this job. I got to get right to work. I went to work when I still had like 2 months of, what do they call it, terminal leave. Like I could have hung out for 2 months and got my full pay and benefits, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, I got to double dip for a couple months and put a little money in the bank, and I got to get right to work. And it was all so pressing, with the kids and the work and the life, and you got to buy a house. And
was that anxiety, you think, in the back of your mind that was just like eating you up, like I have to, or was it?
Yeah, I think it was a little of that, and I think it was a little of that's just the pace you got used to living your life at.
Right, super fast.
And so it's very hard to turn it off. Like you just don't know any other way. Like when you do a move in the military, you get orders, you pack all your shit up real fast, you move across the country, you try to make a few bucks by putting some of it in your car or doing a U-Haul, and then you get to your new assignment and you got to get your stuff set up and get out to the field and join your unit or start your training course or whatever. And it didn't have to be that way anymore. And what we did, and I was the driver of this, candidly, was our first couple of years outside the Army, we just sort of still did things that way. And we didn't have to do it that way. We didn't have to buy a house at all. We could have moved to Florida and rented a house for a year and figured out where we really want to buy a house, or we could have done any number of things. differently that would have taken the temperature down and like let us actually enjoy some of that time that we were looking forward to. But it was like out of the frying pan into the fire.
But your whole life kind of sounded like that, you know, from your college career or graduating high school to college to, it's just like the next
super
big thing,
achiever.
Right? Yeah, super achiever for sure.
Yeah, and like, look, it has served me
That's
really
a hard
well in some
habit
ways.
to break at 30. How old were you then?
32, maybe,
Yeah.
31. Yeah, I mean, it's all I'd ever known. And here's the other thing that really, I think really affected me and affected us was that, you know, I grew up in a solid, simple family home. You know, mom and dad went to work. We had dinner every night. You paid the bills, whatever. You maybe could go out to eat once a month, and you went fishing on the weekends, played sports, etc. And I wanted that for myself. And so I graduated from West Point. I got married at 22. You know, so now I have a wife. I went off and did all the stuff in the Army, went and fought in the war, did all that, checked those boxes, right?
Yeah.
Bought a house at Fort Bragg, check, owned a home, moved to Florida, bought a home. Transitioned out of the Army, got a job in corporate America, check. Had 2 kids, 2 healthy, beautiful kids, check. And you kind of wake up one day and you're 31, 32 years old and you've gotten married, fought in the war, started a career, own a home, have 2 kids. And then what? Right. I'd kind of fulfilled all the check boxes that I had raced to check.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have the Army anymore, you know, to motivate me and inspire me to.
Plus, your team,
press.
you have a friendship base there that's brutally honest, that you can bounce ideas off of, like, right? Like, that's,
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing is community, man.
Yeah. I didn't have any of that
Right.
anymore. And I just found myself kind of adrift, you know, feeling very alone, very isolated. And then it gets to the point where, you know, things aren't really that great at home. So you feel, you know, a little bit of a stranger there too. You know, and then you get frustrated and you're not patient with your kids, and then you're upset with yourself, you know, and so now you're beating yourself up.
Now you're in the freaking spin cycle,
You're
right?
in the doom loop.
Yeah.
And so that was me for a while, just in the doom loop. And it was particularly insidious because I was making big commission checks and I had a nice home and, you know, people respected me, and I was getting my MBA at the University of Florida, and any of the external metrics were just green, you know, all green bubbles across the board. And, but none of it was really filling up my bucket.
At that point where it's all green bubbles, like, and everything looks good from the exterior, right? Like, probably felt even good from the exterior a little bit, like having all that stuff materially and stuff. But like, if you're not, I see so many people go through this and at like super high levels, like especially in the music industry. It's insane. The misery that is there with some people that have these incredible opportunities at life and get on stage and get to perform. But I also think that it's so glamorized by the general public. It's such a small skill set of people that get to do that they don't really know what's entailed behind the scenes and the whole thing, unless you've been there and had to work with these artists, or would even have compassion for it, because maybe they are selling pharmaceuticals and they want to be James Hetfield, you know, rocking out to a freaking football stadium full of people, right?
Yeah. And I think this is where you have to learn to take a lot of joy and try to find fulfillment in these things that are not so sexy.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that you can really fall in love with if you're a super achiever is the next thing's going to get you what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, especially material
the next,
wise.
I ran a marathon, so now I need to run an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
Right? I did that. You know, you made 180 grand this year, you got to make 240 grand next year. You know, you're an SF guy, now you got to go be a CAG guy. Mm-hmm. And on it goes. right? Meanwhile, being a great dad is far more fulfilling than any of those things. But if you're all twisted up in your head about how you quit your team and your job sucks and you're just you're a loser sales guy, blah, blah, blah. What you're missing by being so focused on yourself, like we talked about earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason you're depressed is you're thinking about yourself all the damn time. And what I could have done if I had had the capacity for it at that point would have just been like, I'm just going to quit every day at 3:00 and just hang out with my kids. You know, I could have done that most days, and I didn't. And in fact, some days I was home by 3:00 and I was in my home office, you know, sending emails or doing nothing of real importance because I didn't even know how to go out there and deal with like the day-to-day ankle biter kind of frustrations of life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just didn't do a good job of it.
It's so crazy too. Like, I'm guilty of this sometimes. The podcast has given me so much perspective, man. Every one of these things is like a therapy session for me almost. It really is, because it's a space where I can come in and think out loud. I mean, granted, people are listening to it, but it really is for me. Like, I've learned so much in here, and a lot of what I've learned is to freaking slow down and enjoy and be present, and how important it is to be present. Because I think that the biggest thing that I get out of this, and so many of my guests do, is this present moment. Because I don't care if my phone's ringing off the hook. Like, it's going to ring through on my watch. And if I get 4 calls in a row from my wife, we're going to have to go to a commercial break.
She's the priority. I just want to make sure I'm really clear about that.
Me too. Yeah. But, you know, I think that this doesn't happen. I talk about this ad nauseum, and I get so much out of it. It's just the human connection and being present. So I've realized that through this podcast, which has in turn made me a better dad too. Like, there's a certain spot on top of our refrigerator that nobody can reach. The phone goes on silent and it goes up there. And I may check it before I go to bed if I have family stuff going on. But if the world's falling apart, it's not at my front door, right? So I don't need to know every little thing. I don't need to look at every little thing. I don't need to get affirmation for how good of a job I did on the podcast or not. I also don't need to go down the negative rabbit hole of people that think I'm horrible at it but still listen. I mean, there is an off button for all of you.
Yeah, that's ironic, right?
Yeah. That's always my reply. It's just like, thanks for listening. You know, if I start getting those negative comments, because nobody forced you to listen to this. You had to go find it first off. Yeah. But anyways, now I'm on my soapbox. But I think like being present with my kids to the point where I'll have them come in here every once in a while. It's like, they enjoy it too. You know, it's fun to put on the headphones and sit down and hang out here or whatever and talk about what they're into. And it's also a little time capsule I have of them at a certain age.
That's right. Yeah, that's
points
cool.
in their lives. It's been really cool. And I would never publicize any of those unless they wanted to for some reason. But it's a time capsule of some serious conversations, because I think there's a cognition level that comes with that too when you really have time to think and there's not so many distractions. There's not a waiter coming to your table and like telling you about whatever the chef specially made tonight or whatever.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of these like business meetings and stuff, like dinner meetings and stuff like that occasionally with show designers or lighting designers or you're taking the team out. So we go to some like pretty nice restaurants. It's like the waiter's got a whole like 45 minutes of your attention where he's like telling you about how the shrimp was, you know, brought from, or the clams, these are West Coast clams and these are East Coast clams.
You're not the main event here, man. Come on.
Yeah. So, and it's their job, man. They're giving you the highest level of service that they can, but it's just, I don't know. This is the spot where I get it. So I've tried to apply that as a dad, is just like really listen to them and really be into what they're into. If it's checking out a beetle that's crawling across the deck, and my 7-year-old is like, look at the colors on this thing. It's crazy. Like, I've never seen a bug like that. It's just a pine beetle, but it's the first time she's experienced it. So experience it with her.
Yeah.
Take the time it'll make you appreciate it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, their eyes are so valuable.
Yeah, man.
Man, like what's the Buddhists say that once you name something, you cease to see it.
Really? I don't think I've heard that.
And
That's fucking cool.
you know, so a cardinal or a blue jay or a
Yeah.
beetle, a pine beetle, right? You know what that is. So your mind is already filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
But through the eyes of a child, you're able to look at it and be like, wow, look at that thing.
That's why it's
Look
so
how cool that is.
It's so impactful to not be negative around them either, man.
Yeah.
Or fearful or like anxiety. All that stuff translates.
Being steady
man.
for them is really important. And I'm not the Dalai Lama. I don't have this stuff figured out. I mess this stuff up all the time.
I have too, dude.
But I will say, like, it is much quicker to rise to the top of my priority list or my ability to become aware of when I'm getting out around
Yep.
with the family is so much faster than it used to be. It doesn't mean I never screw up. I do plenty, but I'm a lot quicker to apologize. You know, I'm a lot quicker to catch it, you know, that tension and just kind of say like, hey, I feel like that upset you. I'm sorry if it did. I wasn't trying to upset you. I shouldn't have said that, or I should have been more patient, blah, blah, blah. And we can move on. It's like magic. But when I was younger, I just didn't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, being there with Jenny and with the kids now it's totally different. We talked earlier about simplicity and intensity. And like, I think that's a great way to be with your family. You know, how many things are we doing right now? One thing.
Right.
And we're doing it with real intention, real focus.
Yeah.
You know, and for a guy like me, if I can learn to be intense about that, then I can get a lot of what I'm looking for because I'll find somewhere else to be intense.
Right.
You know, and I got to turn down the achiever gene. And, you know, doing what we do now is very helpful because it allows me to engage with people at a really high level and be dynamic and be nervous. I'm nervous all the damn time, which is awesome in our job, you know? So I like that, having to like show up and perform and be ready and rehearse and
there's no going back, dude, or it's over.
It's
right?
live, baby. We're going live all the time. So I love that. I love people asking questions and throwing wrenches in what we're talking about. You know, I really, really get a ton out of that. And that allows me to go home and, you know, not feel like I'm falling behind, you know, not feel like I have to, you know, I don't know, get some title or.
Well, I think having it something that you're passionate about too.
Sure.
Right? That can get monotonous if there's no real passion in it. And I'm not knocking anybody that does anything like that or has that job and is able to check out. And if that makes you a better person at home, but if you're worried about that at home, I don't know. I've always had to have some sort of creative control of whatever I've done.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I've excelled at and that's what I enjoy doing. And I'm so fortunate for the careers that I've had and like really the luck that's come my way a lot of times too. It's been hard work too.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
putting yourself, there's been some scary freaking moments, like super scary. But I think just pushing through your fear and taking advantage of an opportunity and not having self-doubt is what's helped me. Like even starting this podcast. I did it the other night with Brandon and Ellie. I was a freaking nervous wreck recording that podcast. One, I didn't want to screw it up. Two, it's a really close friend of mine doing something that's super vulnerable. And not only that, his daughter on top of that.
Don't screw that one up, man.
And
we love Elliot Young. Don't mess it up.
Well, I got to answer to you guys, dude. I'm in real trouble. And just the state of the community, the timing of it. I mean, it was so good for me. I felt so good coming. I still feel great about it. I still have like this buzz in a selfish way, like because it was something that I needed to get out of my system.
Well, you know what that is? It's being alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. We challenge ourselves all the time, Brandon and I, to stay nervous because that means we're alive. It means we care.
Yeah.
You know, it means we're not complacent. It means we're not drifting. It means we're not chasing dollars. We're nervous because we care, you know, and that reminds us that we're alive. And I think that is what people are chasing. You know, you talked about being present. We've talked about being real. You know, that's being alive.
Yeah.
You know, being really in it. And this morning, you know, we got up at super early to go do sound check at 6 a.m.
Did you guys drive from here to go do sound check in Keystone?
No, we were there. We stayed at Keystone.
Okay, nice.
But we had to go and talk to 1,000 people, from a stage very early in the morning. And, we're going to share parts of our story that are unpleasant to share. And, we get really nervous sharing this stuff because we don't want anyone to ever think that we're trading our war stories for dollars, So we've got to really figure out a way to make this make sense for the community and get them something that they can take home. And I'm really nervous, and I have thoughts on mornings like this morning where I'm like, I don't know if we should do this anymore. Like, this stuff is super heavy.
Right.
This is really hard. I just hope I can get through this. These are the kind of thoughts that I have. And then I try to get quiet and I pray and I just say, thanks. Thanks for an opportunity for me to be alive again today. Mm-hmm. Thanks for challenging me. Thanks for the nerves. Thanks for the audience. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to go do my very best, and we typically do a good job, from that posture. But that is what it's about. And it doesn't have to be achievement. And I think that's what I'm really starting to learn. I haven't gotten there yet, totally. But it's not about accomplishment or striving. It's about that kind of that wholehearted pursuit of doing something you really care about and being willing to step into that uncomfortable space.
Yeah, feels good. Feels good when you're done. It doesn't always feel good in the process, especially if you stumble a little bit or like.
Yeah, you beat yourself up. You're like, I shouldn't have said that, or I screwed that up, or I forgot to say that, and all those things. But that is also the same at home. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go up to my 9-year-old who just threw a fit and say, hey, I'm sorry. I was impatient with you there. I shouldn't have been. Because like the truth is she's probably being a little bit of a brat right now and is throwing a fit.
Right.
And I could say this is a chance to teach her a lesson. Right? But
Mm-hmm.
maybe the lesson I need to teach her is that it's okay to say you're sorry.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's huge.
And it feels awkward, and I don't want to do that. It's the same thing. I don't want to come home at 4 or 5 o'clock and I know that Jenny's a little frustrated with me about something. I know it's probably my fault, and like I could probably let it buff out. I don't want to say like, hey, what's going on? I feel like something's a little off. Right. If I've done something, I want to know.
Well, most people, Thursday night football, or whatever, like,
yeah, it's a
or
distraction.
look at their phone, man. Like,
yeah,
it's so crazy. Like, you go to take it back to like public places and stuff, and a lot of times when I'm traveling by myself, I just want to grab a quick bite to eat, and whether I'm having a drink or not, like, a good place to sit is the bar. But it's so crazy, like, people, and I'm just as guilty of this. Like, when I'm on a plane or something, you're fucking bored, and you have these little attention machines in your hand, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know, it's just crazy. But I see when you're by yourself, you notice a little bit more of the room, and I'm also a psychopath, so I'm like, where's the exit? Where's the,
staying sharp, man.
Yeah, staying sharp. Crazy. I know nothing. Probably couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag, but anyways.
You're intimidating as hell, dude. You're a big dude. No one's gonna mess with you. You've got
well, sometimes they'll target you.
I suppose that's true, man.
Target, right?
Yeah, that's probably true. In like a more benign environment, you're 100% safe.
And not that I'm like scared, right? I'm just aware of like what's going on around me. I've always been that, especially if my family's with me. It's like I want to protect them, So, so I'm just hyper aware. But one of the things I noticed is like there'll be like couples at a dinner table together, and they're both just, like in their phones, and there's like there's no conversation going on, or you see groups of young guys at the bar or whatever. They're not. Yeah. They're on their phones looking at chicks, not the chicks that are at the bar.
This is what's crazy to me.
I'm like, what the
hell? Is that you're at a bar or you're at somewhere socially, and you're looking at your phone, maybe you're looking at a dating app, and like they're everywhere. What are you doing right now? I mean, I guess I grew up
trying
a lot
to find their profile on the dating app so they can talk to him. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad I didn't ever have to deal with that.
Me too, man. But like our generation was probably the last generation of that.
Well, I mean, I was single. I got divorced in 2012, and so I was single right before the dating apps took off. And I met my wife Jenny in 2013. And they were just starting to be a thing, but we met at the CrossFit gym.
Right.
And there were running, and I was in Tampa at the time. So there were running clubs, there was CrossFit gyms. There was a million ways to meet somebody of the opposite sex that did not involve your phone.
Right.
And even now, because my oldest son is 19 and he's in college, and we talk about this all the time. I'm like, hey, you should just go up to people and introduce yourself. Yeah. It's like a superpower. You're going to be the only person that does that, and you're going to win.
My name is...
And he's a good-looking kid. So I'm like, hey, man, just take that blonde hair and blue eyes and go up to somebody you're interested in and say, hey, my name is...
Yeah.
And you might be surprised at how well that works. Like, put your damn phone away. Yeah. Don't even bring it.
It's so crazy that, I haven't luckily had to cross any of those barriers, but I'm about to here pretty soon. My kids really had to have any of those talks.
Yeah.
My son, a little bit, because he's a good-looking kid. The girls freaking love him, and he's got an older sister, so they all know him. And he just is he ignores the shit out. He's not mean to them, but I'm like, Tyler, just at least say hi, because at some point the coin is going to flip where you're going to want to talk to them. Trust me. Just trust me on this.
Don't burn any bridges.
So crazy. Oh, man. Well, yeah, I think, being a parent is one of the craziest things that's ever happened out of all the crazy, tours that I've been on and, wild shit that I've done in different countries and military bases that I've gotten to experience as a civilian and all kinds of, just amazing things. Having kids, hands down, has been one of the biggest things that's changed my life and given me different perspective, I think, is how do I want them to grow up? Where it's the reason why I'm here,
Yeah. Best and hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's really changed my perspective on me, because everything I've ever really cared about and tried hard at, I've been good at. That's just the truth. And being a parent, I care a lot about and I try really hard at, and I feel like I'm not very good at it all the time.
Dude, it's so hard.
I'm like, how could this be? Right. How could this be that I care so much? I'm sincerely trying as hard as I can all the time, and I just don't feel like I'm very good at it.
Well,
every day you're failing at something, it seems like.
And if you look at the clock, it's like you're not getting yesterday back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the hard... these are all cliche sayings that we're saying right now. Kids changed my life. You never get time back.
Whatever, dude. I'm 46 years old now. I'm allowed to say all this shit.
Exactly. It's like two old men. This is the old man podcast, right? We're not that old.
Yeah,
dude.
Can we throw some cliches
Still crushing
out there?
it. Yeah.
Look, neither of my kids can hang with me. So at some day they might be able to, but that day has not come yet.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's good. That's a good thing. So transition out of the military. I think we covered that, going into fatherhood. Crazy transition into a career, and then chasing that dollar. I guess you capture it. You have this green bubble that you're living in, perfect house, perfect suburban life, right?
Should have seen my lawn.
Yeah,
spectacular.
Kids in private school, basically, Montessori school is pretty much private school. Yeah, it's most people would dream about having that. When were you able to flip and start chasing the passion projects, writing, self-help? How did you meet Brandon? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so two different lines. One, I met Brandon pretty early in my first job outside the Army. He had been there maybe a year before I got there.
Okay.
So we met in early 2010 when I was brand new on the job in the sales game. And he had been there about a year, and we were kind of you do the little bit of butt sniffing, and you're like, oh, hey, man, what are we doing here?
Right.
So we became colleagues and sort of friends. He was in Georgia/Alabama, and I was down in Florida.
Did you guys stick out like sore thumbs in the crowd?
Well, not too bad. A little bit, not too bad.
I bet you that dude's a Ranger. I bet you he's a Green Beret, or
It was maybe a little that way, but our company had actually hired several former military guys that were even a little ahead of us. They were kind of ahead of a curve on that. And so that was helpful for us. There were some other Army dudes and people that had been in the military. So there was that. Things didn't really flip for me until they totally fell apart. So my ex-wife and I split up in early 2012. And around that same time, a guy that I knew from third group had started a nonprofit called Team RWB, Team Red, White, and Blue. And I'd been sort of involved from the beginning. I'd like run some marathons and raised some money and helped out a little bit, but I wasn't like super intensely involved. And he had asked me one time, I think it was the Marine Corps Marathon in 2011. He was like, how are things going at work? I'm like, that's fine, but I'm probably not going to do it forever. And he sort of floated this thing like, we're maybe to a point where we're going to raise enough money that maybe we could have an employee at some point. Like, so I don't know who that would be, but if that's something you're ever interested in, maybe we could talk about it. And I was like, okay. And then he called me in like the early 2012 when things were kind of starting to fall apart at home and said, hey, this might become a reality. We've raised a bit of money. We might be able to have an employee. And he's like, what did you make last year? I'm like, I don't know. I told him the number and he's like, oh shit. And I was like, I don't know. Well, let's just keep the conversation going. If this gets more serious, we'll think about it. And then my ex-wife and I split up early 2012, and I was kind of reevaluating my whole life for obvious reasons. And he called me in the spring and said, this is going to happen. We want to hire somebody to be the next executive director, full-time employee of this. We can maybe pay you like $80,000. But that's kind of where we're at. Like no benefits, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, give me 90 days. Like I'll do it, but give me 90 days. I need to cash like 3 more commission checks,
right?
And see what's going to happen, in my home, in my marriage, and then I can get started maybe in like July. So we agreed I'd start July 1st. By then I'm like our marriage is basically toast at this point, and I've moved out. I'm like single dad, and so I just kind of felt like if my whole life is going to be smashed onto the floor, then why not just do it all right now? Mm. So in a way, some people have asked me like, why didn't you keep your job and your benefits? Like, like why didn't you just like that's stupid? Why'd you like throw your professional life into upheaval while your personal life was falling apart? And it's a fair point, but I kind of felt like if this is all like falling apart in a way I never could have foreseen, it's hard to describe. Like I thought I could see like the whole trajectory of the rest of my life because I'm like a planner and a striver, and then like the whole thing just got blown up. And I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me. Mm. And in a way, it kind of gave me permission to be like, well, shit, let's just do something totally different here. So I took a job at Team RWB, took like a 70% pay cut, no benefits. I got I rented a little 2-bedroom house on Davis Island in Tampa, moved my kids into one room and bunk beds, myself into the other. And I started working at this nonprofit. As the only employee for 6 months. And then I ended up hiring my West Point roommate to be the second employee after 6 months. And it was just him and I for 6 more months. But I don't know. I don't want to be like hyperbolic about this, but like, I just had an opportunity to remember who I was. Mm. I had to start from scratch, literally. I had to find somewhere to live. I had to go buy towels. My sons and I had to go on a big shop. My parents came up, and them and me and my sons went on a big shopping spree to Target and Walmart one day to get like soap,
the essentials,
and towels. Yeah. Like we didn't have anything, some dishes. And I told the boys, they were very little. I'm like, if you guys are really good, it's going to be a boring, long shopping day. If you're really good, we can get a Nintendo Wii as like the last thing we buy, and just had to totally start over. But I felt really free to be myself again. And I started working out. I joined a CrossFit gym and I joined a bunch of running clubs. And, when I had my boys, I was like laser focused on being dad. And when the boys were with mom, I was, working on Team RWB and making friends. I didn't have any friends, and my world blew up and I was off on my own.
Really? None of the guys from the community or? No,
it was my fault. I didn't make any opportunity. I was like work, family, that's it. And all my coworkers lived in other places, like out of territory. And so I had to start from scratch. And I remember I actually walked it was a Friday night, and I was by myself because I didn't have my kids that night. And it was kind of raining, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I walked kind of in the drizzling rain from where I was staying down to 4 Green Fields, which is an institution in Tampa, is now gone, RIP, by myself. And I went up and I sat at the bar, and I ordered a Guinness. I had a BlackBerry at the time.
Nice.
And
a little rollerball. Those things were badass. Man. Full keyboard.
Amazing.
I love them.
Amazing. I was too cheap and too broke at that point to like have my own iPhone. So I was just using my work BlackBerry as my own.
We
phone.
used them on tour because you could communicate when you were out of country. BlackBerry Messenger or something.
Yeah,
So
BBM.
yeah, it's fucking badass,
Come on.
man. It worked all around the world.
Old
We
school.
were in the Middle
Old
East
school.
and shit sometimes, like BlackBerry messaging each other. It was crazy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I sit at the bar and I have a Guinness and I have no plan. I'm just sitting there. And it wasn't even like I could, it was a BlackBerry.
Right.
There was really nothing I could do. So I'm just kind of sitting there. And this is a traditional Irish pub with like a thatched roof that has no TVs.
Nice.
So it's like a public house. Like you talk to one another or you drink your beer in silence, but like you're not watching the game.
Right.
Right. So I'm literally just sitting there with my Guinness by myself. And I'm like, what the heck?
Where was this at? In Tampa?
In Tampa. That's where.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
So that place isn't open anymore? Is that?
no, they
sucks,
tore it
dude.
down. There is another version of it, but it's
Dude, I'm such a dumb kid the first time I went to Ireland. Well, that's not true. It was the first time I went to Northern Ireland. We're going into all these bars and stuff, and I'm like, what's going on? It's like a freaking library in here, Because it's just that quiet, like people are reading books.
unless like the Euro Cup or something's on, and
Right.
they'll like pull down a screen to project a soccer game.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there, and there's this woman who was working the outside patio bar, and she was coming in to get food or drinks or whatever from the bar, and she just looks at me and she's like, "Are you a runner?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a runner." And she's like, "I got a great group of friends out here at the patio bar. You should come out and hang with them. I would love to introduce you to them. We're all a bunch of runners." And I'm like, "This is aggressive," but I'm like, "Okay." So I go out there and I meet these people who are great. This one young kid, Marine veteran, another guy named Rich, retired SF guy,
Nice.
and they're like triathletes and runners, and they're just kind of hanging out at the bar on the patio. And I'm like, okay. And it turns out this woman also owns a coffee shop that she runs like out of her house. It's a long story. She's an eccentric. She actually is from Ned originally.
Nice.
And she's like, there's also a run club on Tuesdays here, then there's one on Thursdays there or whatever. You should come hang with us. It'll be great. And so I just was like, okay. And so I showed up on the next Tuesday to the run club at this place by myself again. Didn't know anybody. This woman, Jessica, doesn't remember me because she had also been drinking while bartending at the thing that night. Doesn't remember me. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know
Shit.
anyone here.
Yeah.
But then I bumped into this guy that was in like financial services sales or something, and like we started chatting, and he said, "Oh, there's another one on Thursday. You should," and like it just like this. It didn't take very long, and then they're like, "You should play rec soccer with us. There's a 7-on-7 co-ed league, and you should get a paddleboard. You have stand-up paddleboard. You should get a
Yes.
paddleboard." And I'm
Love
like,
paddleboarding.
okay. So I get like on Craigslist and buy a paddleboard, and then it was like, "You should come work out with us." And then it's like, my buddy owns a CrossFit gym, and it was like this incredible positive cascade of things started happening. Only because I did two things. One, I walked down there by myself to just like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
And the other one was I'd also walked through the front door of the VA and been like, I probably should talk to somebody about this. Like my life's falling apart. And they were actually really good to me. The Tampa VA at the time was one of the very best in the country. They had a polytrauma center. And so if you were like less than 2 years outside the military, you could get like a full workup.
That's
at
good
the
to hear
polytrauma center.
because all you hear is the contrary, man.
Yeah,
most of the
and
time.
that's I don't think that's the case. I think
Yeah.
most VAs at this point are doing a pretty good job. Anyway, so I tried to get my head right. I went and saw Dr. A at 7 a.m. every Monday for months. And he reminded me that I was a pretty normal dude that had been through some pretty abnormal stuff. And then it helped me out a lot. And then I started getting out in the community and meeting people, and my whole life just turned around so fast. And it was still very, very hard and painful in some ways. Being a divorced dad and having to deal with all that is really hard. But, I was working at Team RWB. I was like doing stuff for veterans and doing, runs and triathlons and CrossFit workouts. And it was awesome.
It goes back to just like, like the story with your daughter, just slowing down a little bit, man. Like we get so caught up, myself included, in just life, right? Like it's just going at light speed sometimes. This week was one of those weeks for me. But the one thing that I'm big on is like, or that I've really tried to put an emphasis on this year, is I got so busy with the podcast in general, and the community got so big that I would start getting invited to all these, like maybe it was a charity event, or maybe it's a boxing match, or maybe it's a concert, or maybe it's whatever, right? And I have a whole friend group outside of this too. And I don't want this to sound like I'm complaining, but I was just like, I got to start taking these people up on these invitations. Like, because if I don't, then it wasn't for anybody else, but it was just like, I would always, not that I was looking for an excuse, but there would always be an excuse for why I couldn't do it. No, I got another podcast, or no, I got this. Sure. But with a little bit of planning, I've had the most incredible year by just navigating and just doing multiple things.
Yeah, sometimes saying yes to things
right
is harder than you might imagine. And you get to a point sometimes where you got to start saying no to some things. I felt that way a little bit recently. I'm like, I got to kind of get my house in order and say no to some stuff.
Yeah.
Which is that's a blessing
but
too.
But it's one of the best things that you can do for people too. It's just a flat no. Instead of like, because that's something that we go through here a little bit too on my end. It's like, yeah, sure, maybe, or yeah,
you don't want to disappoint people.
Now's not the right time or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, no, that's fine. But just a simple no is much easier than going back and forth for the entire week trying to figure out scheduling and like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not pushing anybody to come on here. It's just, if it works out, it works out, like, and that's no offense to any of our guests, but it's like, I think people think that they're going to like lose the opportunity or something like that. So I think, but that applies in all types of things in life. It's just like sometimes you just got to say no. And it's so much better on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be what they want to hear, just like, oh, okay, well, he's out.
I know. I'm trying to be better about that. I talk to my wife about this all the time. Yeah. She has a hard time saying no, or feeling like you have to like then qualify your no.
Oh,
and it's like, hey, if you don't want to go do that or you can't do it, saying like, hey, thanks for the invite. I can't make it.
Yeah. But the
perfectly adequate response.
Maybe I will. Maybe if this happens. Maybe if that. And it's like, fuck, man.
Or I can't make it because I'm so busy this week, and also Penny's got Dan. Like, you don't have to do all that.
Yeah, no.
Just say, hey, thanks for thinking of me. I won't be able to make it.
Yeah, rain check, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think guys are better about that.
Yeah, well, especially, that's another reason why I like hanging out with you guys, because it's just like cut and dry. Like, we don't have time to fuck around, really, honestly.
This goes back to what we were talking about like an hour ago about serious people.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to have your life with serious people.
Yeah.
With grown-ups. Because we don't have to do all this nonsense dance. Ugh.
Right.
Yeah.
You
want to come hang out tonight? No, I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Right.
You want to go do this weekend? Not really. Okay.
But also the flip to that coin is when you do have the opportunity and maybe you just want to, I mean, you should take care of yourself first. Let's start with that. But those moments where you do get invited to something, saying yes is a part of that too, right? Like being there for your friends, or being there for your friends during a super hard time, right? Like, I don't care what I got going on. I'm going to drop and make a valiant effort to be there for them. Or
we were just talking about this earlier, that, being a friend does take some effort.
It takes so much effort.
You do have to be willing to go occasionally when you don't feel like it. You do have to say like, I don't really feel like going there, but I'll go, to be with my friend. So my family moved from Florida, from Tampa to Maine a little over 2 years ago, which is where my wife is from. I didn't know anybody there other than some people from her family. Mm-hmm. And I've spent now over 2 years very proactively making friends. Like guys I meet at the CrossFit gym, I'm like, oh, let's go grab a beer sometime. Do you mountain bike? Let's go get a ride sometime. Like, I am the one initiating this because I want to have friends. I know how important it is to me to have friends. And sometimes I have to say like, yeah, I'll go, even if I don't fully feel like it, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to kind of nurture the friendship. So it's a difficult balance to respect yourself and your own time and your own energy, but also to remember that if you only do things exactly when you want to do them, how you want to do them, when you feel like doing them, you're probably not going to have very many friends.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's huge. That's huge. And I think I've always said this, no matter whether it's work, the podcast, whatever, you're only as strong as the people like holding you up, I think, Really.
Yeah,
There
are no self-made men.
Yeah.
The sovereign individual is a lie.
Yeah.
No one's doing this by themselves.
1,000%.
We are an interdependent species.
Yeah, on so many levels.
It's who we are.
So many levels.
Yeah.
Kids included, like my kids help me out. It's awesome. So we're coming up on time. We've been at this almost 3 hours.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's
All right.
crazy.
You're doing a good job, man.
Time machine.
Doesn't feel like
it's
3
a
hours.
time machine. Yeah, I know. I always say it's a time machine in here. We're going to have you back though.
Sure.
Because I feel like
once
we're just
a year is
getting
at the
into
contract.
this. Maybe more than that, right?
All right. Yeah, anytime.
Brandon's been on freaking 3 times this year, so
You know what we need to do?
I know how competitive you guys are.
Has Brandon pitched this to you yet? We need to do one with you and me and Brandon and Ben Davis.
Let's do it.
When are we doing that?
Let's do it. We got to figure it out because right now the studio's set up for just 2.
I'm signing you up for stuff you can't do.
No, well, we would need to spend a little bit of money. But we could do it on another way. Like maybe we could do it with a film crew and go do something.
There we go.
Like you guys could, we could do it on the golf course would be a bad idea. But
we'll find it.
I have this whole other series, called On the Mountainside.
Okay.
And it's where we go out and so we went, the first episode, it was me and Sarah Gamache went to American Bowman and shot 3D archery course and just hung out and filmed it. She's a badass archery hunter. Second one was I went to my buddy Donnie Dust's place and he taught me, I still have a long ways to learn, but he taught me how to make, something like, that's something that he made. I'll show you the one that I made. It's very, very crude. It's out there on the table.
Oh, this is the one he made?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a rad dude. He's a veteran. So yeah, shout out to Donnie. He's been an incredible friend. And then the third one was actually, we just went down to Tucson this year and recorded with Caleb Brewer. He's a former Green Beret, 19th group, and he's also a double amputee, but just an incredible human, somebody I look up to so much, man. Like the guy is salt of the earth and is just fucking crushing it. He's got an archery shop down there called Stick Sniper.
Oh, nice.
And it's one of the best pro shops I've ever walked into. So we went down and hung out with him, recorded an episode before his archery shop opened, and then hung out with him all day and recorded and went to his house. It was awesome. Got to meet his family, and that was his second time on the podcast. So it was really cool. So maybe we could do something like that.
Let's figure something out.
We'll go do something. Yeah.
All right.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure it out over dinner. Blayne, thank you so much. Real quick before we bounce, like, what do you guys got coming up? I know you guys you have the book, you guys have a podcast, like drop whatever you want. Like take as much time as you want.
So our business is appliedleadershippartners.com.
Yeah.
Or Applied Leadership Partners. You can find it at our website. Everything's there, the book, the podcast, all that.
There's live links. We'll have links to all the website, the book, all that sort of stuff.
So, I'll pitch a little bit piece by piece. The podcast is 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's 2 friends, 1 question, half an hour, no script. And we take questions from people that have mostly leadership stuff, like, what do you do about this? That kind of thing. So we have a lot of fun doing that. They're short episodes.
They're awesome too.
So check that out. We do that as just kind of, one of the things that's important to us is that we want to be able to share some of what we have to offer beyond people that are just our clients. Mm-hmm. Because we have corporate clients and people that pay us a decent amount of money to come in and spend a half a day with them or a day and to do these things. And that's awesome for us and we enjoy doing it. But the book was initially an effort to like, how do we for, $28 or $25 give people a lot of what we know that they can use and spread the message a bit more broadly.
There's so much in there, man.
Yeah. And then the podcast is like, for $0, you can listen to a half an hour podcast about some of these things. And some of them might be more interesting to you than others. So check it out there. But yeah, if we can come and help your business, your team be more effective as leaders, as teammates, as communicators, we'd be very happy to do that. You can find everything on our website. And we have this sort of joke that like maybe our ambition is to be like the JSOC of leadership development. So like to be really good at it, but not like super well known. And maybe that's a cop out because we just don't want to do social media. Right. I don't know. But yeah, we love what we do. We take it really seriously and we've really enjoyed doing it the last 5.5 years and we're always happy to meet anybody who's passionate about their work.
That's awesome, man. Brandon's been helping me with some coaching, like literally the last couple weeks, which has been awesome. And I don't think I've really talked about this publicly, but I got some big stuff coming, and we'll save it for another podcast, but we'll talk about it at dinner.
Nice.
It's pretty cool stuff happening for the podcast, everything. It's going to be rad. So super excited about it. Man, thank you so much for your time. 3 hours. I don't think we were scheduled to do that. So I want to be gracious to your time. We need to go get a steak too. So, hey, thanks everybody for listening. Support the community. We're going to be putting some stuff up on the Mountainside website as soon as we get it, themountainside.com, how you can help with the recent tragedy here in Evergreen and help Matt out. Over the last 2 days, we've raised a tremendous amount of money for Matt, and the community has. And not us as a community.
Yeah.
Has really set this kid up for success. So definitely go and check that out. But definitely go get the book, Perseverance Greater Than Endurance, Applied Leadership Partners. And thanks, dude, for being here. It's been really awesome.
Thank you, man.
Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. You'll be back.
All right.
Anytime you're cruising through Colorado, let's just do one of these or
I'm
whatever.
down.
Yeah. Or you and Brandon. We'll definitely go do something with Ben too. So
All right.
shout out to everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Love you. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.